Welcome to the August 14th, 2026 California Board of Behavioral Sciences meeting. My name is Wendy Strack, chairperson of the board. And before we convene, I'd like to remind everyone present that the board is a consumer protection agency charged with administering and enforcing the board's laws. Where the protection of the public is inconsistent with other interests sought to be promoted, the protection of the public shall be paramount. The Board of Behavioral Sciences will be holding this public meeting in person and via the WebEx platform. I will announce when we're accepting public comments on the various issues. And for each public comment period, we will first be accepting comments from the participants in the audience present in the room. Then the moderator will open the lines as appropriate so the remote audience members can comment. Each commenter will have 2 minutes to comment. Moderator, would you please provide the audience with instructions on how they may participate during the meeting at the appropriate times?
This is the moderator. When we reach public comment, those of you on WebEx can click the raised hand icon. And if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. When we reach you for the public comment period, you'll be given 2 minutes to speak with a 15-second warning. And at the end of the time, your microphone will be muted and we'll move on to the next individual requesting public comment.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 12, call to order and establishment of quorum. Members, during the roll call, please introduce yourself and let the public know whether you are a public or licensed member. Christina, please call the roll.
Good morning. Justin Huft,
Present. LMFT, he, him.
Rez Bailey,
Present public member.
Dr. Annette Walker,
Good morning. Present public member.
Wendy Strack,
Present public member.
John Sovek,
Present LMFT, pronouns he, him.
Susan Friedman,
Present public member.
Christopher Jones,
Present LEP member, pronouns he, him.
Eleanor Uribe,
Present LCSW member.
Rebecca Thies.
Present public member.
For the record, Dr. Nicholas Boyd is absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Christina. Additionally, today we're looking to take a lunch break around 11:30, but this will depend on where we are with today's items. Moving on to item 13, board staff, would you please introduce yourself?
Good morning, Steve Sodergren, the Executive Officer.
Good morning, Marlon McManus, Assistant Executive Officer.
Roseanne Helms, Legislative Manager for the board.
Sarita Risso, Special Projects and Research Analyst for the board.
Christina Kitamura, Administrative Analyst for the board.
And you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kenneth Swenson, Senior Staff Counsel, Attorney filling in for General Counsel today.
Thank you. Now is the time for the public to introduce themselves if they would like. This is completely voluntary. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to introduce themselves?
Good morning, Sarah Carrasco, William Jessup University, Licensure and Compliance Specialist. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good morning. My name is Shanti Ezrin. I'm with the California Association of Marriage and Family Therapists.
Good morning, Ben Caldwell, MFT with High Pass Education. Thank you.
And Wendy, we had one more staff member, actually. Christy.
We missed somebody?
Yeah. Christy, you want to?
Hi, Christy Berger, Regulatory Manager for the board.
Oh,
Thanks, Steve.
There we go. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't see you in the little square.
No worries.
Okay, thank you. Moderator, is there anyone online that would like to introduce themselves?
Yes, this is the moderator. I have Kathy Atkins. And Kathy, I'm going to request to unmute your microphone. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Good morning, everyone. This is Kathy Atkins, Deputy Executive Director with the California Association of Marriage and Family Therapists. Thanks for having us.
All right, and this is the moderator. It appears there are no further requests for introductions.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 10 from yesterday's agenda, the discussion and possible action to approve the 2026-2030 Board Strategic Plan. Before we dive into this agenda item, I just want to thank everyone for the work that has gone into creating this plan. We believe that this final draft reflects the input that has been shared and important priorities for the coming years. And as we look over this final draft together, let's remember it is a living document. And today we'll hopefully approve the goals and objectives, but we'll also have plenty of opportunities to work with staff on details and action steps to help us reach those goals in future committee and board meetings. Looking to kind of finalize this up in a collaborative spirit, and looking forward to working with you all on this. Thank you again. Steve, will you provide an overview?
I will. So this has been a long journey. We've spent, I think, about a year we started on this process. It's a great process. Solid has guided us through that, so thank you, Solid. In the last meeting, May 2026, that's when we were looking to approve the final draft version. But there was a lot of discussion concerning how we could support therapists in working with marginalized or vulnerable communities. And so we put some of that into our strategic plan. You'll see in objective 5.1, we have added an objective, and that calls for the development and distribution of guidance materials, outlining professional responsibilities of registrants and licensees, as well as rights of consumers regarding protection and support of marginalized communities. So we fit that within a goal. And then additionally, we have an objective under the legislation and regulation to direct staff to bring bills, legislation that actually supports that to the board to make a consideration on and hopefully support. So it's in two areas. So that was the major changes from the last time we met. The one correction I have to make too in the final plan is the actual agency needs to be changed on that, because Business and Consumer Service Agency. So we have to also make that amendment if we approve that today. So open that up for discussion.
Okay. Do we have any board members that want to make any comments or ask any questions? Okay. Seeing none, would any member like to make a motion to approve?
Dr. Walker, I'd like to make a motion to approve the strategic plan as set forth by Steve.
Okay. Do we have a second?
John Sovek, second.
But for the record, then that would include the amendment with the agency. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Do we have any comments from our audience members in the room? Seeing none. Moderator, do we have any comments from our online participants?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon. Or if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. Christina, we're ready for a vote.
Justin Huft,
Yes.
Lorez Bailey,
Yes.
Dr. Annette Walker, Wendy Strack,
Yes.
John Sovek,
Yes.
Susan Friedman,
Yes.
Christopher Jones,
Yes.
Eleanor Uribe,
Yes.
Rebecca Thies,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the board chair report. Please review that for upcoming board meeting dates and for past attendance. If you have any questions or need anything updated, please let board staff know. And then this is the hard one. He's not here. We want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Kelly Renasinga, a public member who stepped down from the board after nearly 6 years of dedicated service following his appointment on June 29th, 2020. Kelly's commitment to the Policy and Advocacy Committee and his thoughtful contributions enriched every board discussion. His insight, collaboration, and genuine passion for our mission have made a lasting impact. We deeply appreciate all that Kelly has given to the board and wish him the very best in his future endeavors. And I know we have a recognition for him planned in November. Is that correct?
Correct. He will be hopefully coming by in November, so we can actually officially recognize him. So.
Yes. A lot of years of dedicated service. We want to make sure and honor that. So, moving on to staff recognition, we'd like to take a moment to recognize some outstanding milestones among our team. First, congratulations to Sherry Brunner, a registrant evaluator, and Timothy Coop, a criminal conviction analyst. Both Sherry and Timothy have achieved 5 years of state service. So thank you for your dedication and commitment to the board. Additionally, we want to highlight Sparkle Moss, the board's personnel analyst, who's celebrating 10 years of service to the state. And Sparkle's expertise and support have been invaluable to the board's operations and team. So thank you, Sherry, Timothy, and Sparkle for your hard work and professionalism, and your efforts are deeply appreciated by the board. That concludes my report. Moving on to item 15 is the budget report. Steve, please provide us with the update.
Great. So the board began the fiscal year with the reserve. We're looking at reserve balance of 26.2 million. The total revenue so far, or we're projecting the total revenue this year to be 24.7 million. We have currently total expenditures at 15.4 million, which should bring us about a reserve of 35.4 million, which is 26.9 months in reserve. And as you know, July 1st, we went and started our fee reduction to adjust our balances. So future reports hopefully will be good for us, and we can see that we're bringing those reserve funds down in an appropriate level. And just to mention that transition, it went fairly smooth. Staff has been working hard. One of the staff is back there. Working very hard on making sure everyone, there was a lot of complications with people submitting the wrong fees, trying to get on the bandwagon early to get the fee. So the other additional thing that happened with the fee structure is a lot of people have, I believe a lot of applicants were waiting until the fee went into place. So as you'll see in some of our licensing reports and such, there is a little bit difference in our volumes and applications. So we're probably going to see a lot more applications in the first quarter of the fiscal year next year. So to continue on with that, we spent about 13.3 million currently as of May 31st, which is 91.1% of our budget. We're expected to finish the year off with $14.6 million in expenses, which brings us down to 99.9% of our budget. So we were just squeaking under.
That last time.
I know, it's like we were, and yeah, we've been really, the budget analyst has been really weeding over this and figuring it out. So yeah, we just squeezed in there, which is, it's actually, I mean, it's what you want to do. So not a bad thing. And that's it for the budget report. Do we have any questions?
John.
So is the fee reduction doing what we needed to do to put us in compliance with the whatever?
We will see. I mean, the projections were hopefully that's going to bring us down. The process with that fee reduction. So, I mean, we just started, so we don't really have any, we can't really see any numbers yet because it was July 1st. What we'll be doing is looking at, I believe next year we'll begin the process of, because we'll have after we have about a year's worth of data or looking at our budget, we'll then begin the process of looking at doing a kind of a fee study, so that when this fee structure is over, which is 4 years from now, we can implement what appropriate fee level is and implement that. So we're hoping it will do what we need it to do. Yeah, I mean, the projections, we'll see. In about a year from now, hopefully we will be saying it's going good. If not, we might have to reduce more. So that's it for the budget. Yeah.
Any other questions from board members?
I'm sorry, just really quickly, and just remind me, the fee reduction is projected for how many years?
It's 4 years.
4 years.
4 years, 50% for pretty much all our fees, renewals, exams and such. So, yeah.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, do we have any comments?
yeah,
Oh,
Susan.
sorry. Susan, sorry.
That's okay. I have a very quick question. I kind of recall that we loaned the money or lent the money to the state, some money to the state a while back.
Yes, that was a $10 million loan. And that's,
I thought it was 26.
no, 10 million.
Oh, do they ever pay us back or don't we? care?
That's calculated in here. We haven't been, I don't think they have paid us back yet. So,
I doubt that they can.
oh, they will. I mean, yeah, we'll get it back. So
Eventually.
eventually.
Okay, any other comments from board members? Okay, do we have any comments on this one from our in-house audience? Okay, moderator, do we have any online comments?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon, or if you're an audio-only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. We'll be moving on to item 16, administration report. For the licensing update, we have Mark Mason, the board's.
Actually, you know what? It's Mark's birthday today, so I let him have the day off.
Oh, okay. Well,
So I will be taking it over.
next meeting, we'll hear from Mark.
There you go.
Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you. So currently the board has 66.7 authorized positions. Don't ask me about the 0.7. It does the full person. But so we had some promotions. Timothy Nevins has accepted a promotional transfer to the position of MST in the testing accommodations unit. And we have Kama N has accepted a promotional transfer to an MST position in the registration as a registration evaluator, excuse me. So that was good. We had some departure. Julie Weddle, she had been with the board for quite a bit. She had left us for that wasn't a promotion. She transferred, she wanted different work. So it was May 15th, she left the board. We were sorry to see her go. And then Sydney Alexander was working in our registration unit, left the board June 30th. Currently, right now, we have a couple personnel requests out there. We're looking for an OT position in our admin unit to help us with the front counter. We are looking for an analyst 2 for our consumer complaint investigation unit to fill Julie's position. And in the examination and cashiering unit, we are holding interviews now for an office technician position, and that should be selected soon. And lastly, in the registration unit, we're looking at an office technician position, and they're going to help with prepping the registration applications and working with the registration team. So currently, the board has 4 vacancies. We have the Breeze update on this. Staff has been doing a tremendous job of putting in place what we've called WorkAuth 165. And this has been a long process. It's actually been an 8-year process where we're finally at the implementation phase. And this is really looking at the Breeze system and re-engineering it so that it performs more to our liking, and it will allow us to do more things online and to actually, I think, one of my easier to collect stats. So we're in the process right now where we've implemented the AMFT portion of it. This is something that actually it's really back-end information. The public will not see the changes from this actual change itself. So we implemented the AMFT, and we found we're doing it piecemeal. So AMFT was a big load, brought that in, found out, lessons learned. We really needed to figure out the lessons learned before we implement it for the ASW and LPCCs, APCCs. So we've learned our lessons on issues that occurred. Staff has been working diligently to correct those, and thank you, staff, for all your hard work on that. This change also sets in the process of it was kind of the first step in putting those registration applications online. We wanted to make sure the system was set, ready to go, and stable. I mean, the system is stable currently. Trying to use the word stable after this change. So our next step is looking at implementing the online. First of all, implementing these changes for the ASW and APCC portion, doing that background work for the WorkAuth 165, and then also looking at putting the registration applications online. We're currently in discussions with OIS to see what the best path forward is. We want to make sure, I want to implement these as soon as possible, but at the same time, we don't want to have major disruption for applicants. So it's really judging, do we do that piecemeal, one at a time, or do we do them all at once? There's benefits to, like we did with this WorkAuth 165, to the lessons learned. So we're kind of weighing out the timeframes and what it looks like. But I do have faith that, I don't know, the word soon is never a good, soon. Soon we'll have some registration applications online. So, but it is a lot of work, and thank you, staff, for all your hard work on this. Cannot give you enough kudos. And we have some of the communication, the calls handled. We handled a little more calls this fourth quarter over last fourth quarter last year. Wait times have really gone up. We were trying to figure that out. I know Mr. Sovic is always very interested in that. We're trying to figure that one out. We don't know if it was maybe staffing resources in CIC or not, but that's something we are looking at. So trying to figure that out. It could, that was for the average wait times. The other thing too, maybe it's with the fee change, maybe the questions are more in depth and they actually had more longer conversations. So we're looking at that. As you can see, the fourth quarter registration renewals really went down. So that's where a lot of people were waiting to take advantage of the fee restructure, the lower price. And yeah. So that's it for the administrator. Is any questions on the admin report?
Okay, seeing no board questions, do we have any questions from our in-house participants? Moderator, do we have any questions online?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon. Or if you're an audio-only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device.
Okay.
All right, it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 17. Steve, I believe you're also giving us this report.
Yes, this is the licensing report. So we continue to expand year after year on our registration and licensing. We had 2,000 new registrants and 5,400 new licenses for an overall 4.8% increase in our population quarter over quarter. So we continue to grow. Supervisor population also continues to grow. It was a 17.2% increase over last year, fourth quarter. The registration unit received less applications overall this fiscal year and the fourth quarter, or this fiscal year. We believe that's due to the fee reduction announced earlier this year. So I think we will see a lot more applications in the beginning of the year. Also, applications processed. The number of applications processed last quarter in the registration unit is down, and we needed some of the resources to test that system change that we were looking at, so that may have slowed some of the registration application review down. Actually looking to make sure that all the data transfers appropriately, so they had to dive in there and look at the registrations. So. Processing times, they went slightly up. Once again, we think that's because of the moving resources over to other additional items. But still, I think registration is doing a great job. As you see in the fourth quarter, we're looking at a 15-day, 10-day, and 25-day overall average 17-day processing period for the registration application. So they're maintaining those great processing times. So thank you. And the registration emails, they received 6.5% less emails. It was about 13,000 emails that they answered this last quarter. The licensing unit did see an increase in overall applications received, and that, once again, related to fee reduction, we think. And the licensing unit has done a tremendous job this last quarter of processing applications, as noted below, with an increase of 27.13% more applications processed this fiscal year over the last fourth quarter fiscal year. And so we continue to look at ways to improve that, but they are doing good. The processing times have increased this fiscal year over last fiscal year, fourth quarter, once again, due to staffing resources. The greatest increase has been in LMFT and LCSW licensing applications. Once again, we are working to mitigate that and are looking at it, possibly trying to get additional staff resources there. And licensing emails, they went down this quarter. They answered 5,564 emails. So overall, they did an overall year-over-year growth, and a total of 12,608 registration applications were received during the fiscal year 25-26. Based on the last 3 fiscal years, our applications have increased on an average over 5.14% per year. And a licensing had a total of 9,108 licensing applications in the fiscal year. And based on the last 3 fiscal years, the number of incoming licensing applications has increased about 8.6% per year. There are charts for you to look at and a moment for you to reflect and ask questions.
Thank you, Steve, for that report. Just a thought, it just kind of dawned on me when I was just looking at the bigger picture as you shared this data with us, data, depending on who you are, that when we put it into perspective, we're really looking at our workforce situation possibly throughout California. You know, we're working to increase the looking for just a lot of growth in this area to supply and demand. And so I appreciate how you really break this down, but sometimes I think we forget to put it in context, of the bigger picture. So yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's nice to see the increases of
exactly.
year over year. Yeah,
but the shortage is still out there. However, but and we don't talk about that in a way where I think we're keeping our public, up to speed with how we're, working to navigate the shortage. But maybe we should think about that a little bit more too, and maybe touch on that sometimes, and what this really means to the bigger picture.
Okay.
Yeah, just a thought.
And I think one of the main goals not main goals, but one of our main, not swim lanes that our mandate is to really, for us, for helping that workforce, if it really comes down to our role is, first of all, getting qualified individuals out to the workforce as soon as possible. So that's where this stuff is really important. So
don't get me started.
Oh, shit.
Well, I'm passionate about outreach and education. So that's kind of like where our new subcommittee comes in, where we're looking at what we can do to be a part of that growth. So it's wonderful. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Do we have any questions from our in-house audience? Okay, moderator, do we have any online comments?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon. Or if you're an audio-only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you. Moving on to item 18, the examination update.
That's me again.
And Steve, that's you again.
That's me again.
It's the Steve show this morning.
Sorry there. You have to listen to me again, but oh well. To start, we administered 6,742 exams last quarter, which is about an 8.65% increase compared to the previous quarter. As we look at the first-time pass rates, it looks like the pass rates are trending upwards over last quarter. From April through June, we held 9 exam development workshops, both in person and remotely, and these covered a mix of exam construction and occupational analysis for the LMFT, LCSW, LPCC, and LEP. So very busy there. And one of the, we kind of talked about this, subject matter experts, they are the licensees that help us develop these exams. Back in May, we launched a large recruitment effort to bring in new subject matter experts, especially licensees with 5 years experience, more than 5 years, or fewer than 5 years experience. And over 9,000 individuals were contacted. And so far, 244 subject matter expert applications have been received by us. 165 were approved, and 87, we have to actually formulate a contract with them. 87 have been fully contracted. So those 87 are ready to go for OPS to ask them to be part of the exam construct process. So we have some updates on our exam vendors. ASWB was going through an online proctoring pilot to see about online exams, being able to take the exams at home. There was an incident that arose, a cheating incident, and so they have paused that proctoring pilot program for now, and they'll continue to investigate the risk associated with remote testing and to see if they want to proceed on with that later on. And beginning August 3rd, ASWB will roll out a redesigned exam with fewer questions, more applied knowledge items, and just 3 content areas instead of 4. And importantly, the exam length will stay the same and the fees will stay the same. And all that guidelines are on the ASWB website. You can find them there. NBCC, National Board of Clinical Counselors, they do our National Clinical Mental Health Counselor examination, the NCMHCE. See if you can all remember that. So they actually publish their annual performance data, and it looks like California, just a really quick snapshot, California candidates performed 0.3 points higher than the national average on the NCMHCE. And I believe that's part of an attachment. You can look at that. Pearson VUE. The candidate handbook has been updated to correct some exam question counts and clarify various policies. They have also responded to accommodation-related delays. They've added 50 new staff members to their call center for the accommodation line. And even better, they've introduced a self-service scheduling option for candidates with accommodation, and they believe that's reducing their scheduling time by 33%. For schedule accommodations before this, you had to talk with a person from Pearson VUE to schedule the accommodation. So this online actual self-service scheduling is a new thing that I think is really helping out. So that's really good. Exam-related emails were up by 31%, and SMEs by 320. The SME email was up by 327%. That's because of the recruitment. When you send out 9,000 emails, you're going to get a lot back. So, and yeah, that is the exam report.
Any questions from board members? Mr. Sozik.
Steve, just curious about process. How were those 9,000 people chosen?
How were they chosen? That's a good question.
Thank you. I'm well known for asking them.
Wait a minute. Because yeah, I don't know. Actually, we're looking for. I think honestly, and see if do you know perhaps. Let me see if I shake your head if it sounds right. We pulled a report of licensees that were 5 years or have only been licensed for 5 years or under, got their emails, did a mass email. That's exactly it. There you go.
Okay. So there was no specific demographic search or actual, it was more like, hey, do you want to do this thing?
It's just, yeah, throwing it out there for anybody you want to do it. And then they look at, we get back. Part of the process is they do to be a SME, you go through the application process where they look at, you give them more information about like maybe where you're practicing, kind of like what more about you, your demographic information. So they get that. And then We want to have the biggest pool ever, so that we don't really, I think it's rare that we would say, no, you can't be an SME. It's more or less that you will get into the SME process, you get a contract, and then when OPS is looking at a certain exam or a certain part of the exam process, they'll look and say, these people, this is what we want for that, for this portion, we need this kind of experience, and then they'll look to find that. So long answer, but
Any other board questions? I see we have some in-house questions as well. Seeing none, go ahead.
Good morning, Ben Caldwell, MFT. I don't want to belabor the point that you were just talking about, but it seems like more than 9,000 people would have been licensed in the past 5 years.
oh yeah, with 5%. I mean, yeah.
Okay. But my question was, I know that it was on the agenda yesterday for the closed session to discuss the national MFT exam. I know there are limitations, of course, on what can get shared out of closed session, but I was curious if there's anything that you can share publicly at this time about the transition to the national MFT exam. We're particularly curious about whether the most recent stated timeline of doing that transition, probably in July of 2027, does that still seem feasible, likely, et cetera?
Currently, I would say that's on pause for now. And we're continuing our discussion in the board. So as you notice, we have the closed session. I think we will be discussing that again, another one soon too on that. So as for the July 1st, I think that's on pause right now until we make a final decision. So
I'm so curious now. No, but I understand there are limits to what you can share. So that information is helpful. Thank you. And of course, anything else that you are able to share publicly is going to be helpful for people who are trying to plan, like when do they start studying, what do they start studying for, that kind of thing. So just the more notice you can give, the better.
we totally understand that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Can I add to that? Just what Steve's response was, only to say that we're looking at possibly agendizing that for our November meeting, because the discussion.
It will be agendized in a closed session for our November meeting.
Seeing no other in-house comments, moderator, do we have any online comments?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon. Or if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you. Moving on to item 19. Here we go. Okay. Ashley Castleberry, the board's criminal conviction unit manager, will be presenting today. Ashley, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. All right, so the last quarter and the last fiscal year actually was quite busy for enforcement. In our consumer complaints and investigations unit in the fourth quarter, there were 738 complaints received, and of that, 242 were closed without investigation. 7 days was the average processing time for opening a case. 474 complaints were closed after investigation. 73 days was the average time to close a complaint. 6 complaints were referred to the Office of the Attorney General, and 1 citation was issued. The 738 complaints received in the fourth quarter was similar to the number of complaints received in the 3 prior quarters. For instance, in the first quarter, 795 complaints were received. In the second quarter, 715 complaints were received, and in the third, 748. A total of 3,050 complaints were received for the whole fiscal year. Depending on which of the 3 prior fiscal years compared to, that number has increased 23.25% to 38.1%. For instance, in fiscal year 24-25, there were 2,340 complaints received. In fiscal year 23-24, there were 2,122 complaints received, and in 22-23, there were 1,888 received. A total of, for the entire fiscal year, there were the total of 3,050 complaints received. 1,039 complaints were closed without investigation. Five days was the average time to open a case. 1,710 complaints were closed after investigation. 73 days was the average time to close a complaint. 19 complaints were referred to the Office of the Attorney General, and 18 citations were issued. Our probation department welcomed 4 new probationers the last quarter. And in the criminal convictions unit, in the fourth quarter, there were 220 criminal conviction cases received. 217 cases were assigned for investigation. 186 cases were closed after investigation, which includes 11 application denials due to having a conviction or discipline. 17 cases were referred to the Office of the Attorney General. Of that, 7 accusations were requested. 6 hearings for appealing an application denial were requested. 2 orders for a psychological evaluation, and 2 requests for a PC 23 suspension order. The 220 criminal conviction cases received in the fourth quarter is similar to the number received in the last 3 quarters as well. In the first quarter, there were 265 received. In the second, 273, and in the third, 221. For the entire last fiscal year, there were 956 criminal conviction cases received. And depending on which of the 3 prior fiscal years that's compared to, it's pretty similar. In fiscal year 24-25, there were 970. Fiscal year 23-24, there were 854. And in 22-23, there were 1,020. The overall totals for fiscal year 25 and 26 was 956 criminal conviction cases, 5 days to open and assign a case. 788 cases were closed after investigation, and 95 cases were referred to the Office of the Attorney General. For our continuing education audits, for that, we just completed audits ending for the renewal cycles ending in October 31st of 25. A total of 41 CE audits were initiated for the cycles ending November 30th of 25, and 37 of those are still pending. During the fourth quarter, a total of 25 cite and fines were issued for the failed CE audits. Those fines ranged from $150 to $1,200, and the most frequent cause for a failed audit was 4 to 6 hour deficiency out of the 36-hour requirement. The second most frequent cause was a lack of response to the board's audit, and that was tied with a 17 to 21-hour deficiency out of the 36-hour requirement. For the entire fiscal year, a total of 119 citations and fines were issued, and the most frequent cause was a lack of response to the board. For the supervisor audits, the board began those in December, and that is to verify compliance with the requirements for licensees who have been designated as a supervisor. A total of 24 audits were issued in April. Of those, 21 supervisors passed, 2 failed, and 1 is still pending. 24 audit letters were issued in May, and 20 passed, 3 failed, and 1 was still pending. And in June, a total of 27 were issued. That was a slight increase due to the amount of LPCC supervisors that were in that audit pool. Of that audit, there were 23 that passed and 4 that failed. And for the total fiscal, since it began for the fiscal year, I guess, 175 licensees were audited since December. And of those, 145 passed, 28 failed, and 2 are still pending. And last but not least, we have our emails, which I do need to correct a couple of typos there for you. So in the fourth quarter of this last fiscal year, all of those totals were accurate except for our probation department. It looks like that should have reflected 146, which brings the total for last fiscal year to 3,794. In the prior fiscal year, there was 2 edits that needed to be made there. In enforcement, it should have reflected 318. And in our continuing education, that should have reflected 608. So that would bring the total, which was accurate there, to 4,707. So it's slightly less than the last fiscal year. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you. I just have a quick question. And if you can't answer it, I'm sure Steve can jump in as well. But for the supervisor audits, I just want to, so when a supervisor fails, what happens to the licensing fees hours under that supervisor? Do they still count?
The supervisee?
Yes, sorry, the supervisor.
Yes. So I believe the supervisees do not get penalized for the supervisor.
Okay.
Correct. We don't penalize them. And then most of this, it's correctional. I think they need to take the 15 hours of continuing education for supervision. I think most of the times they meet the year requirements and such. So it's really, I think, just a matter of the procedural that they haven't completed. I think where most of the failures are happening.
Okay. I just want to make sure that, yeah, because
Yeah,
that
no,
the supervisees weren't penalized. They were acting in good faith. So
Yeah. No.
Okay. And then I see Justin and then Susan. So
Hi, thank you for this report. Am I understanding correctly that only 41 CE audits happened across all registration renewals?
Yeah,
So I believe we're just auditing licensees, or
Are you
am I wrong?
41? Is that 41 for you mean for the regular continuing education?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not, it's not uncommon. And I think most boards, we do a really small percentage of audits on the CE. That's one of the things that, yeah,
So
1%. So it's a 1% audit. That is something that is on the strategic plan to see how we can expand that.
it's a 1% audit that nearly 2/3 of the people failed.
Mhm.
That to me suggests a pretty huge area that we need to be addressing.
Mhm.
If 2/3 of people in this audit, which is about 1%, are failing that,
Mhm.
there are too many people falling through the cracks.
Yeah. And that is, we are going to be focusing on, actually, there's some discussions about how to do that. We've kind of looked at kind of ways to look at that. We're going to be more formalizing that in the strategic plan and kind of tasks to look at that. It's yeah, it's one of those resource issues. And then the matter of, I mean, do you audit 100% audit, which would be, I mean, the ideal thing to do, but to do that we would have to figure that out. So, I mean, that's not an impossibility. But
Well, actually, I think one way to take that is we need more robust audits. I
Mhm.
don't think that a larger surveillance apparatus is the solution. I think that more accessible CEs are
Oh,
going to
okay.
be helping
I
address
see what you're
that.
saying. Okay.
And I would return to comments that I've made before that the board should be offering low cost or free CE credits.
thank you. Board Member Friedman. It's you, Susan.
This may be a dumb question, but what is the citation? You said you referred to the Attorney General and citations were issued.
So citations are an administrative action that the board takes. Referrals to the Attorney General's office are something that we pass off to them to handle, such as filing a statement of issues, an accusation, assisting with getting a suspension order, things like that. But the citation and fine, that's an in-house document that goes out to our licensees once we find that they've violated the laws or regulations in a way that it's more appropriate to handle by us as opposed to seeking formal discipline.
Would that be for something like an advertisement violation or something like
That
that? Is
could
that
be,
would warrant a citation? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's for minor things. It's not something that we would necessarily want to discipline somebody for, but it's something that requires at least a little bit of action.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And John, did I see your hand up? Okay. All right. Any other, Dr. Walker?
Thank you, Ms. Castleberry. Is that correct?
Yes.
For presenting this morning. Just with a laser focus on the consumer complaints, the numbers just kind of stood out for me. They're consistently around 795, 714, 748 in the fiscal year 2025, 26. I don't know if you can even answer the question, but what are they complaining about? Seriously and respectfully.
So the substance of the complaints, that's something I don't necessarily know, but I know for the increase in the amount of complaints, our licensed population has increased. And also with the passing of the Senate Bill 1024, that brought more awareness to consumers on their rights to file complaints. So with them being more informed and also the increase in the population size, that can definitely explain for the increase in
Yeah.
complaints.
Yeah. Okay. No, thank you
Yeah.
for giving that a shot. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, any other, oh, yeah, Board Member Stowe?
I figured it out, what I wanted to ask. There's been a thing that my brain has not been able to wrap around for years, and you're here today, so I have to ask you because I think you can help me. If I look at overall complaints for entirety of fiscal year 25, 26, this is a math problem, so help me out. Everybody, help me out. It says 3,050 complaints, then 1,039 were closed without investigation. Then 1,710 were closed after investigation, 19 were referred, and 18 citations were issued. But there's this mysterious like 282 cases that don't fit in that number. And I'm so curious to know what those are and what happens to them and where they go to.
Yeah, so the number of complaints received in the fiscal year, that's not necessarily going to be accounted for in all of these totals because sometimes they carry on to the next fiscal year. So we might be closing complaints this fiscal year that were opened last year or even a couple of years prior. So that's why there's not that balance.
So then even when I look at the initial fourth quarter reportings, there's cases missing in there. That's because they're maybe in process and they might be closed like next quarter.
Correct. Yeah.
Or the stuff you're reporting on them, this is stuff from last quarter or the quarter before. So, okay.
Yeah.
I've seen this for years and I've always been wanting to ask somebody this question. You are the perfect person to ask this to.
Happy to answer it.
Thank
And
you.
I like math to add up too, so I can
Yeah.
understand the frustration there.
Thank you. Oh, it's not frustration, it was confusion.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, any other board questions? This was a popular topic today. So thank you. Do we have any questions from our in-house audience? Being none, moderator, do we have any comments online?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon. Or if you're an audio-only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you. And thank you, Ashley.
Sure.
Okay, moving on to item 20, our outreach and education report. Sarita, I think we are going to you on this one.
Yes. Hi, good morning. So the Outreach and Education Committee held its meeting on June 23rd. It's on? Oh, can you hear me? It's on. I could pop up over there if I need to. I'll go up there.
Thank you.
Mic might not be working right. So. A little bit better. Okay. Good morning again. So the Outreach and Education Committee held its meeting on June 23rd, 2026. And during the meeting, staff provided updates on current outreach efforts involving social media, live events, board publications, as well as an update on the website redesign. The board participated in a total of 29 outreach events in the fourth quarter of this past fiscal year, which is an additional 12 outreach events compared to the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2024-2025. Presentations and conference attendances count toward the total number of outreach events. And the board has steadily increased its outreach events over the past 4 years with a total of 63 events in fiscal year 2025. Some outreach event highlights include staff participation in NASW's Lobby Days event held in Sacramento, where staff engaged with attendees and responded to their questions. Staff also participated in the 2-day Camp Annual Conference event in Southern California and engaged with and engaged with attendees. Also, Steve gave a BBS status update at the camp annual business meeting during that conference. And also, BBS hosted a live webinar event via WebEx titled Journey to BBS Licensure, Getting Started with Associate Registration, which featured an overview of the BBS requirements for obtaining associate registration. The webinar was recorded and has been posted to the BBS YouTube channel for viewings. And with the fee reduction that's currently in place, a fee reduction FAQ has been published. In addition to new board publications, top tips for a smooth associate application process, and the power of guiding growth, the benefits of supervising pre-licensed clinical therapists. And updated FAQs detailing continuing education information for licensees and registrants has also been published. And some social media updates. Facebook has had 1,400 follows and a little over 40,500 followers in fiscal year 2025, while Instagram had about 2,800 follows and 24,636 followers in fiscal year 2025. And that's it for outreach update.
Questions from board members? Dr. Walker.
Yeah, good to see you all this morning. I am just very fortunate to chair the O&E subcommittee, and we have very lively conversations. Everyone's like in it to win it, and I'm just so excited for what's to come as we move forward. It's a new subcommittee, so we're just, just really kind of launching off the ground, making sure that we have a firm foundation that builds off our strategic plan, which was just approved today. So there's a lot of things that we can now move forward with the approval of the strategic plan. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Marlon. He was able to sit in for Steve at our last meeting and just did really, Steve, you would have been proud. Hey, you all did such a good time, you and all the other staff included. And with that same momentum, I just want to share just you presenting this update and the way that is presented to the public and to us here, the board members, the live links. I can really appreciate a resource and that you're delivering this information, but folks can also have immediate access to this information that you're sharing means a lot to me as we move forward. And just to give you a sneak peek of what's to come, we're looking at real-time reports, if you will, and how we look at outreach and education. And what's exciting about that is that we're not waiting like years to present to you and show the progress of what we're doing in this area. So it's really nice that we're going to be looking at real-time reports and how staff is actually like getting their feet wet, how they're out there presenting and like that. And we're getting like an immediate turnaround and response on that. So I'm just really excited to be a part of that subcommittee. And I have to thank Steve for pulling me into that and also welcoming Larez to the committee. I think it was her first meeting the last time. So we're excited to have her on board as well, to hear her voice. She's already added and some great input to our conversation. So we appreciate you and all the other committee members. So thanks again for that report, Sarita.
Thank you. Mr. Stovik.
Thank you once again for a beautiful, wonderful report and all the work you're doing on this. In the update, you mentioned website redesign. I remember in the committee, there was actually lots of really great information presented on what's happening with the website redesign. I don't see any of it in this report. Can anyone casually just update the board as some of the really cool stuff y'all are doing?
Sure. So currently we are working on redesigning our homepage to make it more accessible for all of our consumers. Some of the things that we are looking at are renaming some of the, navigation tabs so that it's a lot more clear for when people are searching our website that they can access the information and find it a lot easier. Some of the things that we are doing, we are coming up with some quick hits so that when people come to that homepage, hey, if you're looking for license renewal or continuing education, you don't necessarily have to search for it. It'll be right there and accessible for you. Also, we are adding some mid-page navigation tabs for everyone. So if you are someone going through the application process and you want to know the requirements for, LMFTs, it's going to be right there for you. It's not going to be a hassle to where you have to search, and we're going to put them in multiple areas for people to be able to look at these things. Additionally, one of the things that we get contacted a lot about is about processing times. So we're working on putting those processing times on our website. We already do this through our social media pages, but we're going to have a page on there for when people are wondering where their application is and where we're at that point in time. They'll easily be able to see this and not necessarily have to search and scroll down and go through multiple pages to find this information, along with also highlighting some of the videos that we're planning on creating, and some that we have created and some that we're going to create in the future. So currently we're in the second phase right now. Again, we're looking at the homepage. We're also going to start making changes to those navigations. So if you go into enforcement, it'll be easier just to flow. You'll be able to find out, how do I file a complaint? What are the publications? What are certain things that I need to see? If I have a criminal conviction, what's the process for that? So a lot of the questions that we receive through email, you'll be able to find that on our website. And hopefully we'll have that done soon for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't want people to miss all of this amazing work that's going on. And one of the things we had a big conversation about that I really appreciate is this idea of structuring it so stuff makes sense down the menus. It's like, oh, here's the thing, I click on it, and currently if you click on it, it takes you to another menu that says click here, and then you have to choose 3 reports, then click there, and then follow a lead somewhere else. And the work that you're doing is trying to make this all like one click, direct, this makes sense to a human being type navigation. So I just really want to commend you on the work you're doing on it. It's pretty spectacular.
Thank you. Lots of good stuff in this report. Thanks to the committee and to staff for all your great work. Do we have any comments from our in-house audience on this item? Seeing none. Moderator, do we have any online comments?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon. Or if you're an audio-only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Great. Thank you, moderator. Moving on to item 21, Department of Consumer Affairs report, which may include updates on DCA's administrative services, human resources enforcement, information technology, communications and outreach, and legislative or regulatory or policy matters. We have Shelley Jones, Assistant Deputy Director of DCA's Board and Bureau Relations here today. Welcome, Shelley.
Good morning. Good to see you all again. We have a few updates for you today. Update on agency. As many of you are aware, on May 12th, Governor Newsom announced the appointment of Rohit Chopra as the new Secretary of California's new Business and Consumer Services Agency, which officially launched on July 1st. Secretary Chopra previously served as Director of the U.S. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and as a Commissioner of the Federal Trade Commission, where he led major efforts to crack down on junk fees, corporate misconduct, and unfair practices harming consumers and small businesses. We are excited to welcome Secretary Chopra and look forward to carrying out our consumer protection mission under his leadership. DCA, along with other state departments, transitioned back to 4 days a week in office on July 1st of 2026, consistent with the governor's executive order, which was originally to take effect on July 1st of 2025. DCA issued a department-wide email with guidance surrounding telework agreements. DCA wants to recognize board's leadership efforts and partnership as we work together to support staff through this recent transition. And then lastly, just a few training updates. Our next board member orientation training, also known as BMOT, will take place on October 21st. BMOT is an all-day virtual training, which must be completed by board members within 1 year of appointment and reappointment to the board. Please register for the first available date to be in compliance, and we should have our 2027 dates up by the end of the year. On May 26th, DCA launched its internal defensive drivers training, available now on DCA's LMS. This training is mandatory for state employees, including board members who operate vehicles on official state business. It's a 2-hour interactive session, and it covers safe driving practices, rules of the road, required forms for state travel, and accident response procedures. You can register for these trainings or any of your other trainings through the department's LMS. If you have any questions on accessing your LMS or how to locate these trainings, please reach out to us at Board and Bureau. I just totally lost my whole brain. BBR, Member Relations. Oh my goodness. Is it Friday? Sorry, Member Relations at dca.ca.gov. And that's all I have for today. And that's probably a good thing.
Thank you. We all have Friday brain.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have any board member questions? Dr. Walker.
Hi, Shelley. I'm so glad you're here today. And reminding me that I was just recently reappointed, so I'm required to take the board member training?
Yes, it is statutorily required upon appointment. So every time you are appointed to your seat, you have to retake it again.
So I know I just recently completed the ethics training. I did get a reminder about that, the dating. So you said this will open up, the next training is when?
The next BMOT training for board member orientation is October 21st.
Okay.
So ethics is the only mandated training that's left that is not housed in our LMS. You have to go outside to take. So when you do take that, you need to submit your certificate of completion so that we can update the LMS so it has your most recent date. I can tell you that our training team is working on getting our own ethics training in the LMS, and they're hoping to have that up by the end of the year, which will make that a much more seamless process as well.
Okay. But for the next board member training, the registration is open now? I mean,
It
do I-
is.
Okay, so I
It's
can go in
always
right
open.
now,
Yep.
LMS, and sign up for it?
Yes.
Okay.
And then once we get our 2027 dates scheduled, we'll get those loaded in LMS, then you can pre-register for those as well if you'd like.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other board member questions? Okay, seeing none, any questions from our in-house audience? Moderator, do we have any online comments?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon, or if you're an audio-only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
you,
you.
Shelley. On to item 22, discussion and possible action to approve the information bulletins on protecting client confidentiality and working with marginalized or vulnerable communities. Steve.
Yes, thank you. So this topic of supporting marginalized and vulnerable communities came up during our February board meeting in a discussion about the strategic plan. So as an initial kind of attempt to provide some resources, the board staff prepared 2 informational bulletins, and one focuses on protecting client confidentiality, and the other offers general considerations for working effectively or more actually respectfully with marginalized and vulnerable groups. Both of these documents were presented to the Outreach and Education Committee in April, and the committee asked staff to make any suggested edits and bring them to the board for review and approval. And once approved, these bulletins, like we do with most, like our publications, will be posted on our website, promoted through our social media channels, and on the board, and will be an addition to the board newsletter. And just to make note too, this is just an initial attempt to provide some information. This will be on the strategic plan, so there will be various other activities over the years that we will look at this more closely and see what we can provide to licensees and public. So this is here for your approval.
Thank you, Steve. Do we have any board comments on this? Mr. Sovic.
So as one of the people who's been kind of pushing for this type of work to be done, I would like to recognize the effort it took to make this happen from an initial, there is no way we can legally do this, to a very well-crafted set of statements. So I want to thank you all for taking this on. I know I pushed hard on it, and it's powerful to see, yes, this is a first step, but that we actually can do this and that there are ways to get this information out into our communities. So thank you for that. Taking it from the impossible to an actual document that will be going out shortly, hopefully.
Thank you. Any other comments from board members? Okay, any comments from our in-house audience?
Matt, for that, may I ask a question?
Sure.
And this would be directed to the executive officer. The text of the two draft bulletins have been reviewed, vetted, and approved for legal compliance by the Legal Affairs Division, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. I just want to put that on the record. And in addition, have the draft bulletins been revised since reviewed by the committee?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
The major edits, just to describe the major edits, we're looking at putting in the like the URL codes and stuff to make it more accessible and such. That was kind of the changes that were in there. So it was nothing substantial changes, just kind of a formatting and yeah.
Yeah. Board Member Huft.
I want to echo what Board Member Sovik said, that when we first brought this up, we were told this is not within the scope of the board and we're not able to do this. And so I want to also second this big thank you with your work and the team's work being able to do this. Since this is a first draft, I'd also want to add some ideas that nearly all of this is very values based. A therapist reading this will say, okay, I have to have cultural humility. Okay, I have to understand structural oppression. Okay, I have to understand these different ideas that we would expect them to already understand from grad school. I would like to see some more practical considerations. How do they do intervention planning with clients who don't want to work with EMS, for example? How do they engage in safety planning with clients who are at risk for any number of different reasons? I would like some more practical ideas of what therapists can take away from this, rather than just another flyer about monitor one's attitudes. I think that is helpful, but is missing some of the areas that Board Member Sovik and I have talked about in previous meetings or needs.
Can I ask a question too? And I totally get that. And that's where I said this is like an initial attempt. What we're seeking here is just an approval for this, but then we can put then maybe further looking at during that, it would probably be an outreach and education committee looking at those specific things and seeing what we can then produce for that stuff and then kind of go more in depth. Does that sound appropriate?
Yeah, absolutely. Understood.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I'm sure there's some challenges with keeping documents brief enough that they're easily perusable and flyer format. So kind of maybe perhaps some conversations for the Outreach and Education Committee, making sure things are accessible for everyone. Any other board member questions? Okay, sorry. And now onto our in-house questions. Thank you.
Good morning, Shanti Edrin with CAMT. Also wanted to just take a moment here to acknowledge the importance of both of these topics, and we're very thankful to board and staff for your work on these two bulletins here. Thank you also for including the CAMP Code of Ethics as a resource in both bulletins. And Member Huff, like you had just mentioned about some of the practical information to be added into these bulletins, we're happy to be of resource in any way to staff on that, and happy also to share the bulletins once it's published on the board's website. Thank you.
Thank you. And my apologies, I might have done this out of order because we're going to have to go back out for comment again. So before we go online, do we have a motion from board members on this item?
Madam Chair, may I propose a form of motion? Sure. All right, so the board having reviewed the documents, the motion would be to approve the text of the draft bulletins, that is attachments A and B at pages 22-3 to 22-8 of the memorandum, and direct staff to finalize and publish the bulletins on the board's internet website or otherwise publish it.
Thank you. Would anybody like to make that motion?
And yes, Wendy, I'd like to make that motion as set forth by and recommended by legal, just as stated.
And second?
Justin Huff, second.
Okay. I'm going to go back to in-house. It's not necessary to make the comment again, but any other in-house comment or board, Mr. Sovic?
I'm in-house too. Just a question about that motion. Does saying publishing it on the website limit its distribution because it's a direct motion?
That
Or
is
should
other.
it be for?
It's an and
Does
other.
have an and other?
There was an and other at the end of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moderator, any online comments?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon. Or if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. I think we are ready for a vote. Christina, will you take the vote, please?
Yes. Rebecca Thies,
Yes.
Eleanor Uribe,
Abstain.
Christopher Jones,
Yes.
John Sovek,
Yes.
Wendy Strack,
Yes.
Dr. Annette Walker,
Yes.
Lorez Bailey,
Yes.
Justin Huft.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to item 23, discussion and possible action to reconsider previously approved language and to consider initiation of a rulemaking to amend the board's experience requirements for licensed educational psychologists. Steve, or Christy, sorry. I get so used to saying Steve, but Christy still online?
Were we?
Item was cut from the agenda.
That was cut from the agenda? Okay.
Okay. Just kidding.
Sorry. about that. There was another thing I was forgot to tell you
No.
that.
Yeah, so with that, we will not be hearing item 23 today, and it might be time for, do we need a 15-minute
It
or?
would be 15 minutes.
Okay, so 15-minute break. It's 9:53 now. That gets us to 10:08. All right, welcome back to the Board of Behavioral Sciences meeting. We are moving to agenda item 24, discussion and possible action to approve legislative amendments related to stipend and loan repayment allowances and tax forms. And Sarita, we'll go to you. Hopefully we've got a good microphone there.
Okay. Can you hear me better? If not, I could move over there.
I think it's there. Just make sure you're close.
Yeah,
to
I
the
think that's what it
microphone.
was. I need to scooch. Okay. Okay. Good morning. So, per our current statute, can you? Okay. Oh, okay, because I could always move over there. It just seems. Okay. Testing. Testing. That seems. Okay. 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 So per our current statutes, while gaining hours of experience in supervision, a trainee, associate, or applicant for licensure is to only perform mental health and related services as an employee or volunteer and not as an independent contractor. Upon application for licensure, if employed while gaining experience hours in supervision, an associate is to submit to the board copies of W-2 tax forms for each year of experience claimed. If an associate served as a volunteer, upon application for licensure, a letter from the work setting is to be submitted to the board verifying the associate's status as a volunteer during the dates experience were gained. And so I just kind of wanted to provide some background into past statute and how our current statute pertaining to statutes or pertaining to stipends and educational loan repayments were formed. So in the past, there were occasions when when applicants would submit to the board a 1099 tax form with their employment documents. This was upon application for licensure. And submission of a 1099 tax form usually indicates the applicant served as an independent contractor when gaining hours of supervised experience, which is not permitted. However, there was past statute that specified trainees, interns, and applicants who provided volunteer services and received no more than a total from all work settings of $500 per month as reimbursement for expenses incurred were considered employees and not independent contractors. In discussions in this former supervision committee regarding a proposal to remove from statute the $500 monthly reimbursement amount, committee members and staff noted that an awarded stipend or educational loan repayment would occasionally be reflected on a 1099 tax form. At the time, staff were also becoming aware of stipends and educational loan repayments that were issued to interns, associates, and applicants as an incentive for working in an underserved area or from programs designed to encourage demographically underrepresented groups to enter the profession. And the discussions and work of the supervision committee resulted in amendments to the board statutes for supervised experience and supervision practices, including the addition of clauses referring to stipends and educational loan repayments to the LMFT, LCSW, and LPCC practice acts, which are currently in place. Since its enactment, staff have occasionally noted misinterpretations of the clause by applicants for licensure, with applicants citing the clause claiming since they work in a rural or underserved setting, their workplace should issue a 1099 the board will accept. However, the intent of the clause in statute is to acknowledge stipends and educational loan repayments issued from programs designed to encourage demographically underrepresented groups to enter the profession or to improve recruitment and retention in underserved regions or settings. Currently, supervised experience hours are not accepted if a 1099 tax form is submitted as supporting documentation upon application for licensure, unless the applicant can demonstrate the 1099 is for an awarded stipend or educational loan repayment. Given these instances of misinterpretations of the clause, the matter was initially brought before the Policy and Advocacy Committee for discussion at the committee's April 17th meeting, where staff presented recommended options for the language in the clause to either be clarified, deleted, or to run regulations specifying how an applicant would demonstrate they received a stipend or educational loan repayment on an IRS 1099 tax form acceptable by the board. Research findings into various stipends and educational loan repayment programs were also presented before the committee at the April 17th meeting to provide some context, which are outlined in attachments B through B4. Based on discussion and feedback from the committee and stakeholders, it was determined the best approach is to clarify the language of the clause in statute. So staff began drafting amendments to the language, starting with the LMFT Practice Act, which were presented before the committee at the June 16th Policy and Advocacy meeting. Following the committee's direction, staff also drafted amendments to the LCSW and LPC Practice Acts to bring before the board, along with the proposed amendments to the LMFT Practice Act for consideration as a legislative proposal. The draft amendments for all three practice acts are shown in attachments A1 through A3. And so the proposed amendments aim to clarify that a program that awards a stipend or educational loan repayment is defined as a governmental or nonprofit and is not employer funded. Also, the draft amendments aim to clarify a qualifying stipend or educational loan repayment does not include payment issued by the work setting or employer as compensation for services rendered by the supervisee, regardless of the tax form used, as well as if a trainee, associate, or applicant for licensure receives a 1099 form for an awarded stipend or educational loan repayment. Upon an audit from the board, the applicant has the burden of demonstrating the payment meets certain criteria, outlining the payment is issued by the governmental or nonprofit program administrator. The payment is not employer-funded compensation for clinical services, and the payment is made solely as part of a qualifying stipend or educational loan repayment program described in the subdivision, in the proposed subdivision. So with that, our recommendation is to conduct an open discussion on the proposed amendments, which are outlined in Business and Professions Code sections 4980.43.3, 4996.23.2, and 4999.46.3, which are all outlined in attachments A1 through A3. as well as we recommend to direct staff to make any discussed changes and any non-substantive changes and to pursue as a legislative proposal.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any board comments or questions? Seeing none, do we have any comments? Oh, wait. Would any board member like to make a motion? I think the motion would be direct staff to make any discussed changes and any non-substantive changes and pursue as a legislative proposal. Is that correct, Council?
Yeah, it'd be something like this. The motion to approve the text of the draft amendments to the specified sections of the Business and Professions Code set forth in attachments A1 through A3 of the memorandum for this agenda item, and to direct staff to make any necessary non-substantive changes and to pursue the amendments as a legislative proposal.
Thank you. We always like it when someone sets up the proposal, the recommendation for us before we make it. And do we have any board members who would like to make the recommendation?
I so move.
Second.
Great. Do we have any comments from our in-house audience?
Hello again, Shanti Ezrin with CAMPT. Sarita, I just wanted to take a moment here to thank you for your work on these clauses and clarifying the stipend and education repayment pieces. We had provided you some feedback in previous meetings that we saw were reflected in the proposed amendments, so we have no additional concerns at this time and just wanted to thank you for your work.
Thank you. Seeing no other in-house comments, moderator, do we have any online comments?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon, or if you're an audio-only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. Christina, I think we're ready for a vote.
Justin Huft,
Yes.
Lorez Bailey,
Yes.
Dr. Annette Walker,
Yes.
Wendy Strack,
Yes.
John Sovek,
Yes.
Susan Friedman,
Yes.
Chris Jones,
Yes.
Eleanor Uribe,
Yes.
Rebecca Thies,
Yes.
motion carries.
Onto item 25, discussion and possible action to approve legislative amendments to address applicants whose schools are in accreditation candidacy and to make legislative amendments to remove statutory references to schools approved by the Bureau for Private Post-Secondary Education. Roseanne, I think we're on to you for this one.
Yes, thanks. Thanks, Wendy. So this proposal does a couple of different things. So under our current statutes, applicants for licensure as a marriage and family therapist and a professional clinical counselor need to have a degree either from a school, college, or university that is unconditionally approved by the Bureau for Private Post-Secondary Education, BPPE, which is under DCA, or that is accredited by a regional or national institutional accrediting agency that's recognized by the United States Department of Education. And so that's a little bit different from applicants for licensure as a clinical social worker. They are required to have a degree from a school that is accredited by the Commission on Accreditation on the Council of Social Work Education, also known as CSWE. The purpose of accreditation is to ensure that schools meet certain quality standards. Also, BPPE approves private post-secondary education institutions operating in California in order to protect students and make sure that the schools meet state standards. So today's discussion is going to focus on two distinct but interrelated topics. Number one, proposed amendments to the licensing process for graduates of LMFT and LPCC degree programs whose schools are in accreditation candidacy. And that's going to be shown in attachment A. And then proposed amendments related to the evolving definition and implications of BPPE school approval, and that will be shown in attachment B. So the first one, a little bit of background on accreditation candidacy. We've recently seen an increase in applicants whose schools are still in candidacy for accreditation. And LCSW law already addresses this situation for clinical social work applicants and has for many years, but LMFT and LPCC law does not. LCSW statute sets requirements for clinical social work applicants if their school is still in candidacy upon their graduation, and the law says that they are permitted to register as an associate and gain experience toward licensure. However, they're not permitted to take the clinical exam until their school has received accreditation. Then once the school achieves accreditation, then they can move forward with taking the clinical exam and applying for their full license. The requirement has been in LCSW statute, as I said, for many years. There's not a comparable provision in MFT or a PCC statute, and we've started to see, we didn't really see it very often before, very, very rarely. And so we're seeing more now, and we're proposing to add similar language to the LMFT and LPCC practice acts. We're also proposing a clause be added to all 3 practice acts, including LCSW law, stating what constitutes failure to obtain accreditation and clarifying that once a school fails to obtain accreditation, an applicant may no longer renew their associate registration. The amendments would also require schools to notify their prospective students that the school's failure to obtain accreditation will affect their license eligibility. So those amendments are shown in attachment A. And then making these amendments also raises another issue that potentially needs to be cleaned up. So we're proposing some additional amendments, and I've separated that into attachment B just for clarity so you can see it better. The board only accepts CSWE accreditation for LCSW applicants. What it accepts for LMFT and LPCC degrees is broader. Those 2 degrees, the school may be either from a school that's unconditionally approved by BPPE or accredited by a regional or national institutional accrediting agency recognized by the United States Department of Education. The problem lies is that BPPE changed what its school approval means in 2015. BPPE used to approve unaccredited educational institutions in California, but that changed with SB 1247, which became into effect in 2015. That bill required institutions offering degree programs in California to become accredited by an accrediting agency recognized by the United States Department of Education. At that time, schools not yet accredited had to obtain provisional approval to operate from BPPE, and they must typically become fully accredited within 5 years, although some extensions of 2 and 5 years is possible. Schools with BPPE provisional approval must notify their students in writing that they are not yet accredited, according to BPPE law. Changing references to BPPE approved schools in statute has not been an urgent need because it now essentially means the same thing as accreditation. However, staff has concerns that when we're adding the new language proposed in attachment A, while leaving BPPE law approval in law as acceptable, could cause someone whose school had conditional BPPE approval to become confused. If it ultimately failed accreditation, they might point to statutes citing BPPE approval and claiming their degree is qualifying. However, the degree is not qualifying because the law requires unconditional BPPE approval. And BPPE approval is only conditional for a school that's in accreditation. So attachment B shows proposed amendments to remove references to BPE approval throughout the board statutes. That includes for qualifying degrees and allowing CE courses to be taken from a school with provisional BPPE approval. In addition, staff has added a grandfather clause in a new section in MFT and LPCC law, and that clause would permit the board to still accept degrees that were awarded on or before January 1, 2015, when the BPPE was still approving unaccredited schools, if the school had unconditional BPPE approval at the time the degree was granted. So that will ensure that there's no unintended consequences for applicants with those very older degrees now from one of the schools before the law changed to require accreditation. I've added some links to some relevant statutes, the bill that changed the law. I've added a link to that. And also, there's a section in the Education Code governing BPPE it requires notifying students in writing before enrollment that the school's approval to operate is contingent upon it being accredited. So that's currently in law. Schools under BPE law must provide evidence of accreditation candidacy or pre-accreditation within 2 years and evidence of accreditation within 5 years. So that's the current BPE law that's sort of relevant that governs what we're discussing today here. We discussed this issue and these amendments in the Policy and Advocacy Committee at its June meeting, including the language shown in attachment A and B. The committee at that time also requested staff amend subdivision G of each section in attachment A related to the part of the proposed language requiring schools in accreditation candidacy to provide a written notice to their students that they're not accredited. The committee requested that this language be strengthened to require it be a separate document in at least 12-point type, similar to the required notices that all licensees or registrants must provide to their clients prior to initiating psychotherapy services. So you'll see the full language of that also in attachment A now. Excuse me. So with that, I will turn it over. The motion would be to conduct an open discussion of the proposed language in attachments A and attachments B, and direct staff to make any discussed changes and any non-substantive changes, and direct staff to pursue the language in both attachments as a legislative proposal.
Thank you, Roseanne. Do we have any board questions? Right, seeing none. Do we have a motion? Do you have recommendations for a motion?
I do, but I want to make sure, did the committee reconvene after the staff changes that you discussed? And
No.
consider them, okay, so there's no motion coming out of committee then, correct?
No motion,
Okay, so,
just to bring it to the board.
okay, so one form of proposed motion, if there are no revisions, would be motion to approve the text of the draft amendments to Business and Professions Code sections 4980.03, 4980.36, 4980.37, 4980.38, 4980.41, 4980.54, 4980.72, 4980.78, 4990.26.2, 4996.17.1, 4996.17.2, 4996.18, 4996.12, 4999.12, 4999.27, 4999.32, 4999.33, 4999.40, 4999.60, 4999.62, 4999.72, and Health and Safety Code section 124260, and add Business and Profession Code sections 4980.36.5 and 499.33.5 as reflected in the attachments to the memorandum for this agenda item, to direct staff to make any non-substantive changes to those draft amendments and to pursue the amendments as a legislative proposal. Sorry
Thank you
about the
for your
length of that.
very thorough recommendation.
And we do appreciate that. So I'll go ahead and make the motion as aforementioned by our legal counsel in the sections that he provided us very thoroughly, and we appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
This is Eleanor Rebel, second it.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from our in-house audience? So exciting to have two commenters.
They only require CSWE accreditation and already have.
Hello again, Shanti Ezrin with CAMPT. Wanted to provide comment here that we agree LMFT Practice Act needs to reflect the current law under SB 1247. And Roseanne, also thank you so much for your work on this. And we're very grateful to see the amendments, not just aligning the requirements in law, but also really making sure that the clarifications do not unintentionally harm past or current applicants and great to see that proper noticing is also in place here. So beyond that, we don't have any concerns with the proposed amendments at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ben Caldwell, MFT. Roseanne, thank you as always for your diligent work on this. As Shanti said, these changes are largely positive and appropriate. I appreciate the effort to make sure that no one is harmed along the way. I do have a concern that the provisions linking clinical exam eligibility to universities receiving full accreditation will bump up against the board's plan to allow associates to qualify and sit for their clinical exams earlier, starting in 2028. Rather than requiring the associate's university to be fully accredited before they can sit for a clinical exam, I would suggest that the proposal here perhaps be amended so that those individuals could still sit for their clinical exam as soon as they are otherwise eligible. They've completed the number of clinical hours determined to be necessary for clinical exam eligibility, but have it be that a license will not be issued in the absence of that university having achieved full accreditation. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah. I think that, yes, I definitely see your point, except we haven't had the discussion. We haven't sort of drafted the language for the early exam eligibility yet. It's in the kind of the pipeline. But I would propose that we move forward with making, because that's already in current law for LCSW written that way. I would propose that we address that with the new proposal and address it at that time, should that move forward with approval.
So you're saying that if the changes to clinical exam eligibility move forward, that at that same time, it might be possible to adjust these accreditation requirements
Yes.
to make it so the degree would need to be fully accredited before licensure rather than before clinical exam.
Right. I would propose revisiting it at that time, should the board decide to go forward with that.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I'm not wanting to throw a wrench in the process here. I noticed that those two things could come into conflict if somebody relatively quickly or like quicker after registering than they do now would otherwise become eligible to sit for the clinical exam. I could see it delaying their process.
Definitely a valid point, for sure, and appreciated it. Yeah, I would propose we hold off on that and do it as part of the other proposal.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other in-house comments, moderator, do we have any comments online?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon. Or if you're an audio-only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. Christina, I think we're ready for a vote.
Justin
Yeah,
Huft.
can I ask something real quick? So just out of curiosity, say if there's a school that's not accredited and if they don't pass accreditation and then they resubmit at a later time, what would happen to a student?
So there's a couple of BPPE has some ways to request extensions in place. So if they were to have an extension, then they would not have failed to obtain accreditation yet. So the student would still, go on with their associate registration. But once the school fails to achieve accreditation, then no, they would not be able to pursue licensure.
Okay, so they would have to get a whole other degree from an accredited school. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And back to the vote, Christina.
Justin Huft.
Yes.
Lorez Bailey.
Yes.
Dr. Annette Walker.
Yes.
Wendy Strack.
Yes.
John Sovic. Susan
Yes.
Friedman.
Yes.
Chris Jones.
Yes.
Eleanor Uribe.
Yes.
Rebecca Thies.
Yes.
Motion carries.
On to item 26, discussion and possible action to take a position on AB 1540. Roseanne,
Okay.
would you provide us with the overview?
Yes, so AB 1540 has been introduced by Assemblymember Gonzalez, and this has to do with the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline for LGBTQ plus youth. This bill seeks to restore the LGBTQ plus youth crisis support option formerly available through the National 988 hotline, which allowed callers to press 3 to reach specialized providers. After the federal government ended funding for this program in July of 2025, the author is proposing to reinstate the service in California. So currently under federal law, federal law establishes the 988 National Suicide Hotline and designates 988 as the universal telephone number for the purpose of suicide prevention and mental health crisis hotline system operating through the U.S. The state's Office of Emergency Services and the State Health and Human Services Agency are tasked with various responsibilities related to state operations of the 988 system, including allowing that the system allows for transfers between 988 and 911 centers and convening advisory groups, things like that. So the author for the bill states that since 2022, the 988 hotline has collaborated with several nonprofit organizations to offer special services designed to prevent LGBTQ plus youth suicide. The program allowed these youth to calling 988 to press 3 to automatically be routed to specialized providers. They noted that since 2022, 1.5 million contacts were routed to that provider network. However, as of July 2025, the Trump administration halted all funding for the LGBTQ plus youth press 3 option and ended this service. So what this bill does is it's requiring the California Health and Human Services Agency to annually determine whether the federal government has activated an adequate specialized LGBTQ plus suicide prevention hotline under 988. And if they have not, requires the California Office of Emergency Services and the California Health and Human Services Agency to implement the requirements outlined in this bill. They must, within 6 months of this determination, request SAMHSA, which is the Federal Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, to enable a press 3 function for calls originated in California that are automatically routed to a specialized call center, including a text or chat feature. OES must then ensure the above-mentioned technologies are available within 12 months of approval by SAMHSA, and requires within 12 months the California Health and Human Services Agency to identify and contract with qualified entities that specialize in LGBTQ plus suicide prevention services. And the bill also sets criteria for qualified entities that are contracted to provide these services. And the bill is also an urgency statute and is effective upon the governor's signature. So with that, I will open it up for discussion.
Thank you, Roseanne. Any questions from board members? Mr. Jones?
I'd like to make a comment. Thank you, Roseanne, for putting this together. I think this is very important that we reestablish this for our marginalized community. I mean, I don't see a downside to it at all, in my humble opinion. So I'm in full support of it.
Justin Huff, I motion to support the bill.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
And also comment. Thank you, Roseanne, for your presentation here. Just curious, the steps that other states may be taking that you know about in the event that this is a nationwide issue.
I don't have any information, unfortunately, about what other states are doing. But I know that this is an issue that has caught the attention of the California legislature, rightfully so, and they're concerned. So hopefully, if it passes, other states might follow. But I don't know that there's other legislation out there.
I appreciate
or
it.
not.
Okay. I have a question. So, I'm wondering if, I know it's talking about contracting with, certain organizations, but I'm wondering, because there's a national hotline, for LGBT, it just says LGBT. I'm wondering if it could be referred there? I mean, if there's I don't know, I'm just,
It would be up to the state. They set some very specific qualifications in the bill. Let me see. They have to have a certain mission that they're employing specialized staff that are specifically trained. So they have to be a qualified 988 center. They have to comply with Confidentiality of Medical Information Act. So if they met the requirements outlined in the bill, they could certainly be considered, but it would be up to the state agencies named in the bill to make that determination.
okay.
Any other questions from board members? And Board Member Huff, you made the motion. Okay, do we have a second?
John Sovek, yes.
Do we have any comments from our in-house participants?
Hello, Shanti with Camped. Just wanted to make a quick comment to thank Roseanne for highlighting this bill and share that Camped has a support position on this bill as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other in-house comments, moderator, do we have any online comments?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon, or if you're an audio-only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other questions or comments, Christina, please take the vote.
Justin Huft,
Yes.
Larez Bailey,
Yes.
Dr. Annette Walker,
Yes.
Wendy Strack,
Yes.
John Sovek,
Yes.
Susan Friedman,
Yes.
Christopher Jones,
Yes.
Eleanor Uribe.
I guess I just needed that other, so I'm abstain just because of comment I had. So,
Rebecca Thies,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you.
May I ask a process question?
Yes,
If,
yes.
Justin made a motion, don't we have to second it before we do discussion, or can you make a motion, discussion, then second, then discussion? I'm just asking procedurally. There was a second.
But to answer your question, while I'm not the parliamentarian for the board, procedurally, there should be a motion and a second followed by discussion, which I think did happen in this instance.
Yeah, I think we got a second before we went to.
Okay, I didn't hear the
audience
second.
Participation. Yeah. I think there was a motion and some more board discussion and then a second.
That's my question. If a motion's made, we had discussion, then we had a second, and we had discussion.
But then I went back and asked, I asked Board Member Huft if he had made the motion. He reconfirmed the motion, then we got a second. Does that qualify?
And I add that traditionally, we have usually held discussion and then had a motion. And that's been our protocol for all the years.
Okay. I
Yeah,
think a
so-
couple times today, we've had the motion, board discussion continued, and then we went out to the public. So
Yes, you're correct about
And
that.
and Christina, we changed that process a couple a while ago. We went more towards the like more Robert's rules. You know, where you are correct that we did that. I think what we started to do the motion, then the second, then we have the discussion just to stop the discussion and then the motion, then more discussion, and then having to go back and forth with everyone just to kind of streamline it a little bit.
Thank you, Chris.
Did you go and reconfirm?
I did confirm with Board Member Huff that he had made the motion, and then I asked for the second, and then we went for public comment. 'Cause I think the motion just has to be made before public comment.
Well, we want it to be made before public comment.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
Otherwise, we would have to go back again.
No, but Loren, she is correct. She did reconfirm the motion. So if after the comment from Eleanor, if Justin needed to adjust it and he did, then that would have overridden the first motion that he made. As far as, and I will of course defer to the smarter guy in the room, our attorney, but that's my understanding of how that process works.
Yeah, that would have been the time for Board Member Huff to have made any changes to his motion following the additional board comment. So
In this instance, however, the motion was made and seconded as reconfirmed, and then there was board member discussion, public discussion, and online discussion was opened up. So it complied with the procedural requirements in this instance.
thank you. All right, item 27, discussion and possible action on AB 1979. Roseanne.
Thank you, Wendy. So this is the first of two AI-related bills that we're going to talk about or revisit today. We talked about them in May. Both have been significantly amended since the May meeting, so we need to reconsider our current positions. This one, AB 1979, that I'm going to talk about right now, is a little bit of the broader of the two. It applies more to healthcare practitioners in general, and then we're going to talk about another one later that's more for AI in the use of psychotherapy services. So for AB 1979, this bill is authored by Assemblymember Bonta, and the board's position in May, on the May version of the bill that it considered, was a support position. And the title is Healthcare Services Artificial Intelligence. And so this bill requires health facilities, clinics, or group practices to take reasonable steps to ensure licensed healthcare professionals acting in their scope of practice retain their ability to exercise independent professional judgment in their scope of practice retain their ability to exercise independent professional judgment when their care of a patient is informed by the output of a clinical decision support system. It also bans the use of AI to direct, guide, or supervise or instruct unlicensed individuals in performing any clinical functions that require a license. And it also prohibits allowing AI to independently perform clinical functions that by law require a license. So under existing law, there's some laws already in place regarding AI, but this is sort of building upon them. The bill or the current law requires health facilities or group practices right now to take reasonable steps to ensure a licensed healthcare provider acting in their scope of practice. Well, the bill, that's what the bill does. Sorry, I got confused. The bill does that. It prohibits a health facility from directing, guiding, or supervising or instructing a person to perform any clinical function requiring a license. And it specifies that using automated decision systems for documentation and communications that does not involve professional judgment, such as automated messages to inform patients of updates to their health records, generating reminders, or assisting patients, is not prohibited. So certain sort of non-technical professional uses. The bill specifies that penalties that apply for violations for licensed healthcare facilities, licensed clinics, and physicians, and it additionally provides that in cases where there are violations for practicing healthcare without a license, the appropriate licensing board may pursue an injunction or restraining order. The author is running this bill obviously in response to the fact that AI is rapidly becoming used in the healthcare system, and that while the technology can hold a lot of promise, there are questions about potential perpetuation of biases and risks to patient safety and challenges that clinical workers might face when questioning what to trust. So that's the reasoning for the bill. Opponents of the bill argue that the bill may be too rigid, constraining rapidly evolving tools that are already in use in clinical operations and have been for some time. So that's kind of the debate going on back and forth with this bill. This bill, as I said, alluded to earlier, casts a broad net to regulate the use of AI in the practice of the healthcare professions, while another bill that we'll be talking about later today, SB 903, is attempting to regulate its use for psychotherapy services only. Initially, when the bill was introduced, staff had concerns that its previous versions may have been overbroad and had compatibility issues with SB 903. However, recent amendments seem to address the concerns and the bills seem to be fairly compatible. But the board should discuss whether they see any other compatibility concerns that remain. The board in May, as I said, took a support position on the bill. Some of the significant amendments that have been made to the bill since then, the bill has been amended to delete the requirement for health facilities and offices to ensure no clinical decision is based solely on the output of a clinical decision support system, and instead it brought in the language about making sure that the professionals retained their professional judgment. We modified the language about independent professional judgment. They added language clarifying that pre-licensed trainees working toward licensure are not prohibited from using an AI tool or system. And it made minor changes to the definition of healthcare chatbot and healthcare chatbot information. So some technical things about chatbots. But I think at this point, I'll just open it up for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Friedman.
What I don't understand about all these AI bills is how it's regulated. Who controls it? It's uncontrollable. I mean, we know that thousands of people are consulting AI as their therapist without ever even talking to a therapist. I just don't understand what these bills do to regulate anything except if someone out of their sense of responsibility and professionalism decides to honor it.
It's I think an issue that everybody's grappling with, including we've seen efforts in other states. We've seen over the past couple of years and several bills this year, we actually looked at a number of AI bills in May. There's efforts kind of at all fronts. There's efforts to regulate the actual licensees using it. There's efforts, these bills make some requirements toward their employers. So they're trying to hit it from that angle. There's also other bills that are attempting to straight out regulate the companies because the AI is coming from these companies. So those platforms regulate them. So they're trying to hit it in a number of different angles for a number of different things. It's not even just healthcare. There's one that I saw today that was just recently amended about chatbots embedded in toys. So it is a confounding issue. And so, I would expect this process to evolve as AI evolves, but that's kind of some examples of the different ways that they're trying to address this.
That doesn't really, I appreciate what you're saying, and I appreciate all the attempt to have legislation, but it doesn't really get to the problem. I mean, how do we regulate these companies? How do we tell them? Turn it off. I mean, we can't do that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, complicated issue. I have Rebecca and then Loretz.
Are you able to provide any insights as to why these various chambers of commerce and business associations are in opposition to this?
I don't know specifically what they wrote in their letters. Those aren't typically public, but I know that generally in the committee bill analysis, the discussion on opposition has focused on the fact that, especially from more the medical groups, is that they're using a lot of these things in their practices already. And at least previous versions of the bill, there was concern that they were overly broad to, I think radiologists use this a lot. They use it a lot in healthcare for various, tasks that are more planning or record keeping. And so thought that it's not going to let us take advantage of some of the benefits of the technology. So it's sort of that balancing act, but no, I don't know specifically why some of these business councils are not for it.
Board Member Bailey and then Board Member Heft.
My question was much like Board Member Thies, and I was also wondering, when they say unless amended, are they talking about the changes now that have since been made that they would support when it says unless amended. So I know it's had multiple iterations. So I don't know if their support has changed since changes have been made.
They're supposed to update their letter every time, but we don't see their letter. The legislature's not required to post it on the website. It might get mentioned in the analysis occasionally, and the analysis has focused on kind of the opposition points that it sound like are coming from healthcare companies. I can look really quick and see if I can pull up an analysis. But yes, if they don't update their position, then it would.
We have some pretty large healthcare providers that are opposed.
Okay, thank you.
Bear with me just a second. So there's one from Scripps Healthcare. I'm looking at a committee analysis from about June. AB 1979 does not clearly distinguish between AI that supports clinical decision-making and AI that replaces it. Its broad definitions could restrict widely used patient-centered technologies already integrated into routine care. Places hospitals in the untenable position of having to ensure that individual clinicians do not rely solely on AI output. Hospital Association has opposed unless amended. Before deployment, each AI tool undergoes an extensive review, including input from multidisciplinary teams. No AI platform is continued for use by medical professionals without a thorough assessment and ongoing monitoring. It would undermine improvements generated through current technology by disrupting existing widely used beneficial technologies embedded in electronic health record platforms. So kind of a lot of a focus on removing efficiencies, maybe unintendedly, that are already there.
Okay, Board Member Huft.
So I appreciate both of these questions. To reframe a bit about this opposition, we find some of those answers in the therapist strikes across the state, particularly the Kaiser strike. One of the major points of opposition that led therapists to strike and subsequently nurses to strike was that Kaiser, among other or medical organizations, are systematically replacing their employees with AI. I am reading this opposition as frustration with guardrails, that they're not able to extract more surplus value, that they're not able to displace therapists, social workers, and replace them with AI. That has been the position of employees on the ground for the last year. That's been the position of unions across the country, that they are being replaced by AI, therapists included, social workers included. And I don't think it is a coincidence that chambers of commerce and medical organizations that profit the most from the use of unregulated AI are also opposing this.
Thank you. Any other, Board Member Sovic?
Roseanne, do you have any knowledge of the discussion about deleting the requirement for the health facilities and offices to ensure no clinical decision is based solely on the output of clinical decision support system? Do we have any history or knowledge about why that was pulled out, that language is pulled out?
I believe that they've been doing a lot of negotiations with these companies and businesses, and they've sort of been tinkering with the language to sort of resolve the concerns that everybody was addressing. So I'm guessing it was kind of part of a negotiation process, which is why you see it's a little bit lighter than it was before. It was, not relying on the clinical decision system, but now they need to retain their exercise. It sort of does the same thing. It's just lightened a little bit. But no, I was not involved in those negotiations.
You weren't in the room where it happened?
I was not invited, no.
Because for me, that kind of was the meat and bones of this particular bill. So to hear how much it's being lightened does concern me. And I might lean towards a support if amended and push back on that. But that's just a thought I would throw out to the board.
I would note that pretty much the deadline to amend bills on the floor, bills have pretty much gone through the whole process. They came out of yesterday was the big sort of appropriation milestone. So we saw some amendments yesterday. They still have the ability to make amendments, but that probably, like in theory, they could. Whether they would do that at this point is, I would caution the success of doing that. I'm not saying you can't.
Then this little board member removes that suggestion. This little cog in the wheel.
You're certainly free to do so, and we can certainly pass that along, but this late in the game, we're sort of bringing it back for a final take. I would say that I think that all of these AI bills are going to be a work in progress. I don't think they're going to just go away next year. A lot of times you'll see bills, they'll work on it a little bit one year and something will pass, and then they work to strengthen it the next year. So I would imagine that we're going to be continuing these discussions in the future with these kind of bills. And this is just a first step to sort of get something out there. But you can obviously take that for what you would like to do.
Thank you. Any other board comments? Do we have a motion?
Do we actually need a motion since we already have a support on
We're
this
not
bill?
changing.
And we're not changing? Or is someone changing?
The bill version is changed, so I'll defer to legal, but I believe you need a new position.
Well, the board has previously
Previously had a support,
expressed a support position.
yes, on a previous version.
Right. And so in essence, what's happening here is the board's being asked to concur in amendments. I know that's not technically something the board has authority to do, but you can communicate that you agree by supporting the bill as amended, most recently by the amendment in the Senate on July 2nd, 2026. So that could be done.
Okay.
If you don't do that, you still have the support on file, but it's to a previous version of the bill.
Right. So I would say that the motion should be to continue to support the bill based on the July 2, 2026 amended version.
So probably to encompass the other amendments, because I haven't had a chance to look to see what other amendments have happened between the May board meeting and the present. It would probably be best to say that the motion would be to continue to support AB 1979 as amended, most recently by the amendment in the Senate on July 2nd, 2026.
Great. Okay. Would anybody like to make that motion? Okay, I'll make the motion.
Yeah, go ahead, and I'll second that.
Okay. Do we have any comments from our in-house audience? Okay, seeing none, moderator, do we have any comments?
Board member comment too, please.
What's that?
The motion was just made, so you have to re-invite board member comment.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we have the motion and the second. Do we have any board member comments on the motion? Okay. And no in-house comments. And moderator, do we have any online comments?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon. Or if you're an audio-only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Okay, I believe we're ready for a vote. Christina?
Rebecca Thies,
Yes.
Noria Uribe,
Yes.
Chris Jones,
Yes.
Susan Friedman,
Yes.
John Sovek,
No.
Wendy Strack,
Yes.
Dr. Annette Walker,
Yes.
Lorez Bailey,
Yes.
Justin Huff,
Yes.
motion carries.
Moving on to item 28, discussion possible action on SB 903. Roseanne.
Thanks, Wendy. So SB 903 is the other of the AI bills that we're going to discuss today. The board considered this bill at its May meeting as well and took a support if amended a position on that bill, requesting several amendments or the author to make several considerations. So I'm going to go through those one by one and let you know the current status. So what SB 903 proposes doing is it establishes laws for the use of AI when delivering psychotherapy services. It permits an individual, corporation, or entity that provides or facilitates psychotherapy services to use AI in providing administrative support or supplementary support, and it provides a specific definition of what those two entail. It prohibits any psychotherapeutic communications, psychotherapy sessions, or triage screenings from being recorded or transcribed unless specific client consent requirements are met. It prohibits individuals, corporations, or entities from advertising or purporting to offer psychotherapy services via companion chatbots. And it prohibits individuals, corporations, or entities from providing psychotherapy from allowing AI to make therapeutic decisions, directly interact with clients in a psychotherapeutic communication, detect mental or emotional states, or generate therapeutic recommendations, assessments, diagnosis, or treatment plans, or triage or screening without review and approval by a licensed professional. So the bill also requires the use of AI in client records for psychotherapy services to comply with the Confidentiality of Medical Information Act. It prohibits any company or entity from sharing, selling, or storing or training their AI models on any data obtained from psychotherapy in a manner inconsistent with applicable law. And it makes violations of this act that it's establishing subject to the jurisdiction of the appropriate licensing boards or enforcement agencies, and authorizes licensing boards to pursue an injunction or restraining order to enforce the act. Like I said, the bill also provides some very specific definitions of types of services. It defines administrative support as tasks that assist the licensee in delivery of psychotherapy that do not involve psychotherapeutic communication. This includes things like appointment scheduling, processing, billing, and insurance, or drafting general communications about therapy logistics. The bill defines supplementary support as tasks that assist a licensee in delivering psychotherapy that do not involve psychotherapeutic communication and that are not administrative support. This is things like preparing and maintaining client records, analyzing data to track client progress or identify trends that are reviewed by a licensed professional, identifying and organizing resources or referrals, and using AI tools that assist licensees with documentation or workflow management. The bill also defines a psychotherapeutic communication as any verbal, nonverbal, or written interaction in a clinical or professional setting conducted to diagnose or treat a mental health or substance use disorder or concern. It includes things like direct interaction with clients to diagnose or treat a mental health or substance use disorder, providing guidance, therapeutic strategies, or interventions to achieve mental health outcomes, collaborating with clients to develop or modify therapeutic goals or treatment plans. The bill specifies that a psychotherapeutic communication does not include general wellness education, instruction, or guidance intended to promote overall health and well-being rather than diagnosing or treating a specific mental, emotional, or behavioral health disorder or concern. So, as I said earlier, the board took a support if amended position on this bill at its May meeting. And so I'm going to kind of summarize each of the concerns that we sent to the author's office in our letter and in our work we talked about in our work with them since then. And I'm going to give you a status update of where we are with that. And that's also in your packet in red, the status update. So at the time, the first thing is that the bill used Evidence Code Section 1010 to define licensed professional, and that omitted a couple of the board's license types, LEPs and social work interns. The bill has since been amended. They worked with us on that. The bill has amended to include all of our license types, so that concern has been resolved. In terms of the supplementary support definition, the bill had previously in that definition, it had said, it talked about analyzing data to track client progress or identify trends, and it said subject to review by a licensed professional. We requested that it be clearer to say it be reviewed by a licensed professional rather than subject to review. So that change has been made. We also suggested the author may wish to consider if all 4 tasks listed there should be required to be reviewed by the licensed professional instead of just 1. They did decline to make that required for all 4 of the tasks. They just did our clarification about the analyzing data be reviewed by a licensed professional. One big thing that has been resolved, we pointed out in our May meeting that there was some sort of confusion in the permitted scope of the bill that kind of ran all the way through it. The bill included at the time, it had a definition of administrative support and supplementary support, which was used within a definition of use of artificial intelligence, and it made it really unclear what was prohibited and what was not. It indirectly permits a licensee to use AI for administrative or supplemental support, but it never explicitly stated that. It was only through definitions. And we felt that structure was too subtle and might be hard for the licensees to understand. So they actually cleaned that up quite nicely, in my opinion. They deleted the term use of artificial intelligence and were much more explicit about what is permitted and what is not permitted. So it is my assessment that concern has been resolved. The next concern, it was a little bit confusing in the old version of the bill, whether consent was only required for recording or transcribing, or if it was required for other uses of AI as well. That has been clarified. It is now clear in the bill that consent is intended to apply only to recording and transcribing. So I believe that concern my assessment is that is resolved. We had a concern about jurisdiction ambiguity, and that concern still remains. The bill says violations are subject to the jurisdiction of the appropriate licensing board. But if the violator is not holding themselves out to be a particular type of licensed psychotherapist, they're just doing psychotherapy, maybe we get a complaint, but they're not saying I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. It is unclear from the bill which profession, which board under DCA would have jurisdiction or would be expected to investigate. And that's significant because there could be a lot of costs with those investigations. So it's significant in terms of a fiscal and workload. So we asked for that to be clarified. It has not been clarified at this time. In terms of the last request, the board had wanted, the bill defines consent as either in verbal or in writing. The board recommended requiring written consent rather than verbal consent. That concern remains. They have not resolved that concern. I don't have a reason for why. I suspect it's because a lot of practitioners, and including medical doctors, are still doing just verbal only consent. So there might be some resistance there, but that concern remains. It's still, the bill requires either written or verbal consent. And we also had a couple of suggestions that we put in our letter that were not specific asks. We asked them to look at the religious counseling definition to see if they thought maybe they could align it with our current bill, which this year AB 1598 is adding a definition of religious counseling, or we call it pastoral counseling, or faith-based counseling, actually, excuse me. That concern, they have not made any changes to that definition. We also had the board requested, the board discussed at the last meeting that some digital tools such as CBT-based skill building applications could provide helpful therapy adjacent support to clients when used alongside treatment. The applications do not make independent therapeutic decisions, but they offer guided exercises or coping strategies. So we recommended that the author, in our letter to the author, we recommended they consider whether and under what guardrails those kind of tools could be explicitly permitted. the status, I don't believe that that concern is really clearly addressed, unless the materials very clearly qualify as self-help materials and educational resources that are available to the public and do not purport to offer psychotherapy services. That's what's allowed currently. The bill also says that you could, that general wellness education and things like that are exempt. It's debatable. I think that would be up for some debate, depending on the app in question and what the therapist is using. It's possible it's included in the definitions of psychotherapeutic communication and psychotherapy services, but I think a little bit of that lack of clarity still remains. I think that's all that I really want to say. It appears compatible, as I said earlier, with AB 1979. We have reached out to the author's office earlier this week. I reached out because the bill yesterday was appropriation suspense day, so the bill did make it off appropriation suspense. That's usually when you see a lot of amendments. It was not amended. They did not let me know when I asked earlier this week if the bill came off suspense, if any amendments were planned. I don't know if any additional amendments are planned or not at this time. I have not heard back.
Thank you, Roseanne. Are you needing any action from us on this?
Well, the current position from the version that we considered in May was support if amended. So you can either let that stand or you can discuss taking an additional or not an additional, a new position.
Okay. Do we have any board comments? Board Member Friedman.
I'm curious, Roseanne, if with all these bills about AI, on which probably we have very little effect, has the governor's office said anything about what they plan to do, or the attorney general?
No, they don't usually comment on bills before they make it to the governor's desk. The author's office has been really good at working with us and taking feedback. They have not taken all of our feedback, but I've had several conversations with them. I've sent them our letter and they have addressed some of our concerns and listened. But I think that they're dealing with a lot of different stakeholders. And so, you know, it's a large discussion, but I wouldn't say that we've had no effect. I think that what our board says, especially about this bill, does carry weight. You know, at this point in the game's pretty almost over. Basically, any letter that would go to anyone at this point, of course, we would share it with the author, but it's going to go to the governor to weigh in on his decision. Is what we would do at this point.
I would assume that the psychology board and the medical board are also feeding lots of ideas and thoughts and whatever.
Definitely, and I know the psychology.
What are they
board
doing?
Is meeting. Well, they're meeting today again, so I would imagine that they're probably having the same discussion about right now as well, because they met last probably either May or June and took a position, and so they need to probably reaffirm their position as well.
Thank you. Any other board comments? Board Member Sobek?
In the piece about the consent, they did not give you any response like, we're not even considering it, there's a reason we're not considering it, there's just no response at all?
No, they did not offer an explanation for that.
Okay, because I do still have a concern about that piece, especially when we think of the potential use of these type of products at 2 in the morning when I'm panicking. Do you agree? Of course I agree. And then the thing spirals out of control versus do you agree you have to sign this, which puts a pause in it, makes an actual consent process happen. And so I do still have a concern about the idea that verbal consent is in the bill.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other board comments? Board Member Huft?
I'm not seeing anything about a requirement to continue seeing the client without the use of AI tools if they don't consent. Can you?
Yeah,
help clarify that?
it does not address that, no.
So if a client says, I don't want any AI tools, what is the therapist expected to do? Because they could say, I'm not going to see it. Can they refer out? Because that seems.
It doesn't
unreasonable.
say, it would be based on whatever the professional ethical guidelines, I'd imagine, are saying about that. It only requires them to offer consent specifically for recording or transcribing.
But I would imagine that our ethical guidelines, I can't imagine it would be ethical to refer a client out for not wanting AI use.
I would think that would be a little bit, I guess that it's how ingrained it is in their practice, right? Like if they've got it, you know, if all of their scheduling and everything is done via AI and they can't back out of it, I don't
Yeah,
know.
that seems like I largely support this, but that seems like a strange oversight to have in this bill.
Yeah, and maybe I know that Camps is a sponsor, so maybe they can speak to that. I don't know, but that is a good point.
Okay. Any other board comments or questions? Do we have any desire to make a motion at this point, or we want to go to public comment first? Seeing,
For the sake of order, let's go ahead and make a motion, and I'm happy to do so. Legal, was there any special language on this, or? Go ahead, Steve.
So I think it's either not make a motion and just keep it as a, because right at this point, like we were talking before, if we added additional amendments, I guess you could, but the likelihood of them being really accepted is very nil. So it's either just, or well,
I think we need to update it because right now I have to write on the letter based on the May 8th,
Okay.
May 8th meeting
So then,
version.
yeah,
So
so we
yeah.
can
Similar
do
to the last
as
one.
amended.
But before we do that, Board Member Huft had a question, and we have Camp here that may be able to answer that before that we move to a motion. And would that would be appropriate? Is that
hey,
okay?
that's fine. I just wanted to make sure if
Yeah.
anybody had any motion
I just
before
want
we
to
move,
make sure
but
before
we'll
we
have to
make a
come back.
motion that we have, and we're making a motion based on informed decision.
Okay, sure.
I get that, but now we're inconsistent. I'm just trying to be consistent as well, so it's
I
okay.
don't think it's inconsistency because it was a question that the board member had
No, but I'm sorry, but she just asked, did someone want
Yeah,
to make a
so
motion? So I was just listening
Yeah,
to the
so just for
board chair.
clarification, I was just, because when we go out to public comment and then we come back and make a motion, we have to go out to public comment again. So I was checking with board members if there was a motion to avoid that double step. We don't have to make the motion now. We
Yeah,
can go to
well,
public comment, come back and make a
I
motion, and go
don't,
back.
I don't actually know that this qualifies as public comment because
It
we have.
does though, because they're
It
not
does it? 'Cause
board
he's-
member.
He's
But
not a
is-
board member? Okay.
Is this protocol though? Do we have our stakeholders and audience answer board questions as well in this order?
We have in the past, yes. When we have questions and want clarification prior to making a motion, we have done that. But that's, and if that practice is incorrect, then please let me know. I just want to, again, just simply making sure that we have all of the details and information before we move forward. Because what would happen would be this. right?
Understood.
We-
Understood. I get your point.
All right.
I get your
I think we're
point.
getting bogged down a little bit in process here. Let's go ahead and go out for public comment and we can always go back out. So we'll go ahead and take comment from in-house audience members.
Great. Thank you so much. My name is Shanti Ezrin with CAMPT. And, to the extent that it's helpful, I wanted to just thank staff and the board for feedback on the bill, everything up to this point. Roseanne, we did receive that email and I did follow up with the author's office about a couple of the outstanding concerns. So that jurisdiction ambiguity, the verbal written consent, religious counseling definition, the skill building pieces. And Member Huft, I'm happy to add on to that list with the question that you had brought up about how the bill addresses clients saying they don't want to have the therapist using AI. And have the author's office get back to staff on these pieces. So I just wanted to confirm that we have seen those questions and they are with the rest of the sponsors and the author's office to get back to you.
Thank you. Seeing no other comment in the room at this time, moderator, do we have any online comments?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon. Or if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it looks like we do have a request from Kathy Atkins. Kathy, you'll be given 2 minutes to speak and a 15-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Hi, this is Kathy Atkins from CAMPT. I think Shanti summed up the answer. And just to add to Roseanne's comment that the bills that came off suspense last night, most of us have been unable to see what amendments there are for most of these bills. So frankly, we just simply don't know yet. But I appreciate Shanti's testimony about bringing it back to the author. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. It appears there are no further requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you. Seems like we may still be hovering around a support if amended position, but maybe with some slightly different amendments this time around. Roseanne, do you want to encapsulate what you've heard?
Do you want me to kind of, what I can do is I can go through the amendments that we requested again, which ones I think should be deleted and which ones, the new one that I think should be added.
Sure, that would be great. Thank you.
So looking on page 28.8 of the board packet, I think that number A, the use of evidence code to define licensed professional is resolved. So I think that one can be removed from the letter. The supplementary support definition, I would still say we could leave that, suggesting that all of the 4 tasks listed be reviewed by a licensed professional. I would propose deleting C with the use of artificial intelligence, potential confusion and permitted scope. I believe that the bill reads clearly now and that is resolved. So I would get rid of that one. Consent only for recording or transcribing. I think that the bill makes clear that consent is intended to apply only to recording and transcribing. So I would get rid of that, but hold that thought. I'm going to bring in Justin's point instead, which is related at the end here. The jurisdiction ambiguity I would leave. I feel that has not been addressed. The allowance of verbal consent instead of in writing, that I would leave that has not been addressed. The religious counseling definition, I would just probably leave that. I don't expect them to address that at this point, but we kind of proposed that as optional in the letter and not as conditioned on the support. The same thing with the skill building applications. I would leave that for the point, but I don't know that they're going to change it at this point, and I don't think that our support is contingent on it. I would add with our support contingent on Justin's concern, and I would articulate that as and Justin helped me out with this, that the bill is not clear what happens if the client does not consent to the use of AI in therapy services. Do they refer them out, refuse to see them, et cetera? Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Any sort of clarification about how mental health providers are supposed to respond to non-consent?
Okay. So I will add that to the letter as well, and then resend it to the author.
With those amendments, do we have a motion from the board? Dr. Walker, did you want to support if amended with those amendments?
What is the board status on this bill? Where are we on this? Are we support?
We have support if amended currently, but we're updating the amendments that we're requesting.
So it would be Roseanne, support.
Support if amended to the items to the items in the packet that I just discussed, removing or leaving, and then adding the one new suggestion about consent from Justin.
So the support would be no, I'm not going to make a motion.
Okay, Roseanne, do you want to give us a motion or?
So I would say, support if amended on SB 903, to, keep I'm just gonna, so items B, E, F in the packet, stay in the letter. The two, non-essential amendments that are suggested regarding religious counseling and skill building applications, and to add, a concern or a request for amendments to address how a mental health provider is expected to respond to patient non-consent for AI.
Okay. Does anybody feel comfortable making that motion?
This is Rebecca
need to
Thies. Go ahead. Okay. I'll make the motion.
Yes, thank you. Do we have
Justin
a
Huff, second.
Okay. All right. Any other board comments on that motion? Okay. Do we have any in-house comments on the motion? Seeing none, moderator, do we have any online comments on the motion?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon. Or if you're an audio-only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. Christina, I believe we're ready for a vote.
Rebecca Thies,
Yes.
Eleanor Uribe,
Yes.
Chris Jones,
Yes.
Susan Friedman,
Yes.
John Zovek,
Yes.
Wendy Strack,
Yes.
Dr. Annette Walker,
No.
Larez Bailey,
Yes.
Justin Huft.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We are at 11:30, but we are close to, we have only a
We-
few agenda items left.
We only have one, bill left, and then it's just the ledge and reg update.
Are we good with proceeding? Okay, all right. Item 29, discussion and possible action to take a position on SB 934. Roseanne.
Okay, so SB 934 was amended overnight pretty significantly, so we're going to stray from the analysis a little bit, and I'm going to talk to you about what the new version of the bill says. There's no updated analysis, obviously, but you do have, each board member received a printout of the overnight version of the bill. There are also, for the public in attendance, there are printouts of the bill on the table by the door. And for those of you online, if you want to look at the new version of the bill, it can be found on the legislature's bill site. It's leginfo.legislature.ca.gov. That's leginfo.legislature.ca.gov. And you can search SB 934 in the bill search box to get the latest version of this bill. So this bill, the August 13, 2026 version of it, SB 934, the board previously on this bill, when we looked at a substantially different version of it in May, had a support position. And so basically, previously, the bill was seeking to establish civil remedies for people of all ages harmed by sexual orientation or gender identity change efforts. They have completely taken out the civil remedies portion of the bill as of yesterday. I don't know why. I have reached out to the author's office to try to find out why. I've not heard back yet, so I don't know why. But the bill now also, which is new from when we talked about this in May, it updates the definition of sexual orientation change efforts as it pertains to the prohibition on therapists providing such efforts to minors. So that directly affects the board's ban on sexual orientation change efforts with minors, because it changes the definition. So that's what I'm going to talk about, is the changes in the bill today. So if you look at the bill, and it doesn't look like the pages are numbered on this, but you're going to see on page 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, you're going to see something about halfway down the page. It says Section 2, Section 865 of the Business and Professions Code is amended to read. And so there you will see the definitions of a mental health provider and sexual orientation change efforts. And don't let the color, the blueprint fool you. There have been other changes. So not all of the changes that are being made are just shown in red and blue. There's other changes too, because this is a version that is different, that basically carries over from a version that was being amended from a previous date. So the definition of a mental health provider, I'm going to let you know what current law says, and you can compare it with what's in here. Current law defines sexual orientation change efforts as any practices by mental health providers that seek to change an individual's sexual orientation. This includes efforts to change behaviors or gender expressions, or to eliminate or reduce sexual or romantic attractions or feelings toward individuals of the same sex. And so you can see under Section 2, 865B, that's a little bit different from what you're seeing there now. So they've added in gender identity change efforts as well. So it's an updating there to, this language was established around 2012, 2015. So the language used used to be more sexual orientation change efforts was the focus only. Now it's become over time more focused on gender identity as well. So they're including that in as an update. So they're updating the definition to sort of try to get at therapies that are trying to direct a patient toward a predetermined outcome. And then they give some examples. So efforts to direct a patient toward a particular sexual orientation by reducing or increasing sexual romantic attractions or feelings toward individuals or of a particular sex, and efforts to direct it toward a particular gender identity by altering, suppressing, or constraining. They actually got rid of the altering or suppressing, and now in the last version, and now they're just saying suppressing or constraining. And then they give some different definitions of what sexual orientation or gender identity change efforts do not include. So they get a little bit more specific here. They're talking about non-directive psychotherapies that facilitate a patient's coping, identity exploration, and self-understanding without seeking to achieve any particular outcome. Age-appropriate interventions to address unlawful conduct or unsafe practices that don't try to change a sexual orientation or gender identity. And then counseling, psychotherapy, or other supportive services consistent with standards of care that respect the gender identity of the patient as experienced and defined by the patient. So they're trying to be a little bit more clear and explicit than the previous definitions. So, and you'll see that the rest of the bill, which was all the establishment of the civil remedies, is deleted. So I think I'll one other thing we had in the definition of a mental health provider right under 865A. We had asked them to include a clinical social work intern. They were not previously included in the definition, and they should be. And so they have, in this latest version, have added clinical social work intern in. So that is good, and that was based on staff's request. So I think I'm going to open it up for discussion, and we can go from there.
Okay, Board Member Huft.
So thank you for your work on this and the quick update after the pretty rapid changes. Do you have any sense of how this will hold up post Childs v. Salazar and the Supreme Court saying therapist speech is free speech?
I don't think anybody really knows at this point. I know that the author has been working with their team of lawyers to try to make this as strong as possible, but I don't know if anybody really can answer that question.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board comments or questions? Okay. Seeing none at this time, if the board wishes to retain the support position, you don't need any action from us, correct?
I would need a motion to support this version.
Okay, because it pretty substantive changes. Okay.
This is John Sobek. I'd like to make a motion to support this bill.
Do we have a second?
Justin Huft.
Okay, great. Any comments from our in-house audience?
For clarification, that's a motion to support the bill as most recently amended in the Assembly on August 13th, 2026.
Yes.
Great. Do the maker of the motion and the seconder accept that?
Yes.
Okay. No board comments on the motion. Okay.
I have a comment.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually don't feel comfortable making the vote without, I mean, I didn't realize this was connected to that, because I mean, I just read what was on our notes. So I haven't really totally reviewed this one, because we just got it today, right?
Yeah, because I believe these were just made, so there wasn't time to include them in the packet.
Yeah, the amendments showed up this morning on
Yes.
Capital Track. Yeah. It was amended overnight.
Okay. Okay. And if you're uncomfortable, you're welcome to vote however you determine for that. Okay, so moving on to in-house comments. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Ben Caldwell, MFT. I know that I was one among many, but I was involved in the drafting of the definitions in SB 1172 back in 2012. At that time, we all knew that the bill would be subject to legal challenges and worked diligently to try to make the language as clear and precise as we could. With more than a decade of legal challenges now behind us, with some varying rulings along the way, we know more now about how this language needs to be, both to have its intended regulatory impact and, to Board Member Huft's point, to hopefully survive the inevitable continued court battles. This bill in its current form reflects that gained knowledge. Like Roseanne, I can't speak to the recent changes about civil remedies. I don't know what's happening there, but I remain proud to support this bill, to oppose the harms of reparative or conversion therapy, and to encourage you to maintain your support position as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other in-person comments? Seeing none, moderator, do we have any public comments?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon, or if you're an audio-only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are, oh, I apologize. We do have a request from Kathy Atkins. Kathy, you'll be given 2 minutes to speak and a 15-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Hi, Kathy Atkins from CAMPT. As Roseanne noted, given the pretty substantial gut and amend that we saw, CAMPT has not had a chance to assess this new version in order to take a position as of yet. But the reason I clicked to testify was just to is that most organizations in the mental health sphere are aware of and assessing the various, not just California legislation, but the various court cases some of the board members have mentioned, its impact, next steps. And so, I definitely think also not, the BBS I know is taking a look at it, but anyone who belongs to an organization to reach out to the organizations and see what they're learning or what they're hearing. I encourage that kind of thing. Thanks. Take care.
All right, this is the moderator. We have another request from Leah Brew. And Leah, you'll be given 2 minutes to speak and a 15-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Hi, Leah Brew, LPCC and counselor educator. Maybe this is lame, but if if they removed civil civil remedies, I just looked that up on Google and it means that they can't sue for like financial damages or restitution or restoration. It says, so I don't like, there's no teeth without civil remedies, if I understand that correctly. So I'm hoping a lawyer in the room can clarify that. Thank you.
I'm not a lawyer, but I can clarify it. So, the bill was originally in response to the Supreme Court ruling, and they were trying to establish a longer statute of limitations to take civil action. So it was the whole piece of the bill that's being struck was a new add. They were adding something to the law to try to get this. It's somewhere along the way yesterday. So somebody like that was allowing it to get through that committee must have decided that it was a no-go. I don't know the details or why, but it's not deleting anything that's not already in law. So it's not removing anything. It was just trying to strengthen them and make the statute of limitations more longer for this. So it's a loss, but it's not a loss that's of an existing law. It's something that we thought was going to go through in this. The other piece that the Business and Professions Code 865 amendments, that is something that that was an add, I think, originally to conform to the definition. The civil remedies portion had a definition of sexual orientation change efforts. It was a little bit more modern and it included gender identity change efforts. So at some point along the way, we had asked, hey, does our law need to be updated as well? And so the initial response was, well, no, we don't think so. But I think then they looked at it and had their attorney look at it a little bit more. John had raised a point at the last meeting about a specific type of therapy. We presented that scenarios to them. So I think that they kind of went back and said, hey, yeah, maybe we do need to modernize this. And so that's where the changes to 865 are coming in, is they're really just a modernization. And that's what's left in the bill. Like I said, I don't know why the civil remedies are gone, but they weren't, it's not striking something in existing law.
So existing statute of limitations applies and civil remedies apply. They're just
To
not
the
being
extent
changed.
that they
to
are
the extent that they
currently,
exist already.
I can't, not being a lawyer, I can't speak to all of what those are, but yes, everything stays as is with regard to that. And our definition changes a little bit, and it appears to be an attempt to modernize it.
Okay, thank you. Moderator, do we have any other online comments before we return to the board?
This is the moderator. It appears there are no further requests for public comment on WebEx.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the board, given public comment? Board Member Huff?
So I just want to provide a point of clarification for any public members who may not have the updated legislation in front of them. Just so we're all on the same page, with the removal of civil remedies, last night's update is almost identical to the legislative changes that we have been seeing that are in our packets that were posted. So besides minor word changes, it is what everyone on the board has already read and come prepared to discuss, and it should be what is already accessed by the public.
Okay, thank you. Any other board comments? Okay. We have a motion and a second on the floor that makes us ready for a vote. Christina?
Justin Huft,
Yes.
Lorez Bailey,
Yes.
Dr. Annette Walker,
Abstain.
Wendy Strack,
Yes.
John Sovik,
Yes.
Susan Friedman,
Yes.
Christopher Jones,
Yes.
Eleanor Uribe,
Abstain.
Rebecca Thies.
Do I need to abstain since I stepped out for a minute of discussion?
If you didn't hear discussion and public comment, then you should abstain.
Abstain.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving next to item 30, update on and status of board sponsored and board monitored legislation. Roseanne.
Okay, so as I've alluded to in our other discussions, yesterday was kind of a big day for the legislature. That's when bills came off appropriations suspense, which is basically when the Appropriations Committee makes a decision of whether to move forward any bill that has a fiscal over a certain threshold. So I'm happy to report that our bill, AB 1598, passed the Senate Appropriations Committee yesterday, so it will move on to the Senate floor and then hopefully the governor's desk. The omnibus bill, SB 1445, that the board also has items in, is on third reading in the assembly. The status of some other bills that have changed recently. The AB 1979, which we discussed today, obviously passed the Senate appropriations, as did SB 903 that we just discussed, and SB 934 that we just discussed with the amendments. AB 2352, which is, no, that's, yes, the Medi-Cal providers allowing nonprofit public benefit corporations to be Medi-Cal providers. That also passed to the Senate Appropriations Committee yesterday. And so, yeah, I think everything else is pretty much in your packet. If there's any questions, happy to answer those.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from board members? Okay, seeing none, do we have any comments or questions from our in-house audience? Seeing none, moderator, do we have any comments online?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raise hand icon. Or if you're an audio only participant, you may raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 31, update on status of board rulemaking proposals. And I think we have Christy for this one.
Yes, thank you. All right, so we have a number of packages pending at this time. One that is very close to being through the process is our continuing education regulations. And that is currently pending signature by the acting DCA director. It's been at their office since June 29th. So we're waiting on that to hopefully have back soon so we can get it through final review and find out the implementation date. Our English as a second language package is also pending the acting director's signature, and that's been there since April 29th. So we're hopeful to have that soon as well, so that can become, the next step for that one will be to be noticed to the public so that we can, it has further to go in the reg process, basically. So the director has to sign it before it's published, and then they also have to sign it at that last stage before it goes to OAL for final approval. So these are in different stages of the process, but both are requiring the signature. The AMF-TRB national exam, you guys talked about that already today. And then the licensed educational psychologist experience package, we were going to bring it today, but we, in consultation with our reg counsel, we did find some additional language changes that were needed. So we're working on that in the background. We'll have it back at the November meeting for you to consider. And that's everything.
Okay, great. Thank you, Christy. Do we have any comments or questions from board members? Okay, seeing none, do we have any comments or questions from our in-house audience? Seeing none, moderator, do we have any comments or questions online?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon. Or if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and it appears there are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you. Moving on to item 32, suggestions for future agenda items. Are there any future agenda item suggestions from board members? Seeing none, do we have any future agenda items from in-house participants? Seeing none, moderator, do we have any suggestions for future agenda items online?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this item, please click the raised hand icon, or if you're an audio-only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. And I do have a request. If you could raise your hand again since you had your Elise Springer. Yes, thank you. You'll be given 2 minutes to speak and a 15-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm so sorry. I went off mute because I realized that I might want to make this in the public comment session, not just future agendas. So I will return at that next one, or shall I continue here?
This is the moderator. I'll defer to the board chair.
If they want to make a comment, we can move on to the next one. Yeah, if you can wait till item 33.
Yeah. We thought.
Okay. So, sorry.
Right. If this is the moderator, if that's the case, then there are no requests for public comment for agenda item 32.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, just conferring for a second with legal counsel. Oh, there is.
Yeah.
Is that what she's talking about?
No. Someone else, something.
Oh, this is for, oh, I see what, oh. Thank you, that's.
I don't know what that is. Okay.
So do we? Okay. Yeah, let me, so we did receive a written public comment, not public comment for an item for future agenda topics. And I believe we did distribute that online. I think it should be part of our actual documents there. So we will consider that for possible future board meetings.
Okay, so we're just acknowledging receipt.
And if you, for public members and board members, it is in our materials online, so you can see what that's about.
Okay. I don't know if it's in our box folder. It is? Okay.
It might.
Okay. I don't see it in there at this moment, but we can. Item 33? Okay. I'm not seeing an item 33 in there, but.
So I can just,
Okay.
I can, do you want me to clarify really quick? There's 4 points that they were talking about in here. I can do that really quick if you.
Sure.
So there are concerns about, supporting associates in supervised practice, and they want to place associate access to paid supervised practice on a future workforce development committee or policy and advocacy committee. They would like us to collect data regarding registered associates who are unemployed, underemployed, and able to accrue hours, or unable to locate qualified supervisors. Examine regulatory, legislative, and budgetary options for creating guaranteed supervised practice pathway, and also consult with HCI counties and professional associations, graduate programs, employers, supervisors, and currently registered associates to kind of look at the what's going on out there. So that's kind of a flavor of what we're looking at. So
Okay, thank you. Okay, given that, I think we are moving on to item 33. Moderator, was that it for online comments for 32?
Correct.
Okay. So moving on to item 33, public comment for items not on the agenda. I'll now open for public comments for items that are not on the agenda. And as a reminder, the board may not discuss or take action on any matter raised during this public comment section, except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. Each commenter will have 2 minutes. And do we have any board members with any comments on items that are not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, do we have any in-house comments?
Yes, thank you. Shanti Ezrin with CAMPT, and wanted to provide a public comment on the AMFTRB national exam. And respectfully request that it be placed on the open session agenda for the November board meeting. We recognize that no exam is perfect. However, this is an established licensing exam that is used by every other state that licenses MFTs. We spent a lot of time discussing the merits of the exam, so I'm not going to take time to repeat those points today, but instead I want to take my time to emphasize that CAMP stands ready to help. Like the board, we are fully committed to protecting consumers and ensuring the competence of licensed MFTs. We do really appreciate that the board is discussing this topic, and I heard today that it's scheduled for another closed session discussion for the November board meeting. But if concerns are contributing to the delay, we respectfully hope that these concerns can be shared publicly with stakeholders whenever possible so that we can work collaboratively towards solutions. We recognize that progress is difficult when stakeholders do not understand the barriers that need to be addressed. We're already very committed to holding AMFT-RB accountable, and we are in discussions with them for continued improvement in areas such as greater transparency and increased accessibility. But again, it's very difficult to address other concerns that haven't yet been identified to stakeholders. Let's not let the pursuit of a perfect exam get in the way of a good and valuable one for California MFTs, especially when we can continue improving the exam while also moving this process forward. So with that, just wanted to again respectfully ask that this be placed on the next board agenda and that the conversations continue with public stakeholders. Thank you.
Do you have any other comments from in-house participants? Moderator, do we have any public comments online?
This is the moderator for members of the public on WebEx. If you would like to make a public comment on this for items not on the agenda, please click the raised hand icon, or if you're an audio only participant, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 on your device. All right, and we do have a couple people requesting, so I'll go in order received. First, I have Elise Springer. Elise, you'll be given 2 minutes to speak and a 15-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for your patience with landing in the right spot for this comment. My name is Elise Springer. I'm a California licensed marriage family therapist, a perinatal mental health specialist, and a policy and advocacy volunteer co-chair for the California chapter of Postpartum Support International. First, I do want to thank the board very much for developing and publishing its informational bulletin on perinatal mental health. The bulletin is a meaningful acknowledgement that these conditions are common, consequential, and relevant to the work of the BBS licensees. We very much appreciate the board's responsiveness and work that went into creating it, but a bulletin alone is not enough. As you may be aware, Lindsay Clancy has been making the news quite a bit in the last few weeks. We have many of these cases in California that I've brought before the board before, including Sonia Hermosillo, Carol Coronado, and Liliana Carrillo. A bulletin does not ensure that licensees receive foundational education in recognizing and responding to perinatal depression, anxiety, OCD, bipolar, psychosis, etc. And because California has 400,000 births each year, if not more, 1 in 3 folks struggling. And I would really appreciate, and we respectfully ask the board to continue keeping perinatal mental health at the forefront of its workforce discussions and to consider meaningful educational requirements through pre-licensure education and continuing education. Perinatal mental health should not be treated as an optional specialty training. It must be recognized as foundational competency for California's behavioral workforce. Thank you.
15 seconds.
Thank you very much.
All right, this is the moderator. Next, I have Robin Anderson. And Robin, you'll be given 2 minutes to speak and a 15-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Good afternoon. My name is Robin Anderson. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in California, a clinical supervisor, and a former president for CAMP's board of directors. My perspective is unique, as I currently serve as a subject matter expert with OPES, and I recently served as a subject matter expert with AMFT-RB. I've had the opportunity to observe both exams firsthand, to see the rigor of their development, the care with which questions are written and reviewed, and the extensive processes in place to ensure the exams measure the knowledge and clinical judgment necessary for safe, competent practice. Therefore, I have tremendous confidence in the quality and integrity of AMFTRB's national exam. It does an excellent job of assessing the clinical reasoning and decision-making abilities that are essential to the effective practice of marriage and family therapy. As a clinical supervisor, I would have no hesitation in encouraging my current supervisees to take the national exam. I'd be just as comfortable supervising associates preparing for the national exam as I have been supervising those preparing for California's exam. 49 other jurisdictions representing diverse practice settings, populations, and regulatory environments already rely on the national exam to assess entry-level competence. Those states consistently license qualified, capable, and ethical MFTs who provide high-quality care to the public. California will be well served by joining the rest of the profession in adopting the national exam. Doing so will maintain strong consumer protection while modernizing our licensure process, improving portability, and ensuring California's future MFTs are prepared to practice wherever their careers take them. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. Next, I have Vic Campbell. And Vic, you'll be given 2 minutes to speak and a 15-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Good afternoon. My name is Vic Campbell. I have been a practicing LMFT in California for 17 years and currently serve as the president of CAMF. In addition to my practice in California, I also practice in Nevada and have plans to practice in Oregon. Over the past 12 years, I have supervised and mentored aspiring MFTs as they work towards licensures. I share this background to provide context for my testimony, not only as the president of CAMF, but also as a seasoned clinician and a longtime supervisor who has witnessed firsthand the challenges facing the next generation of therapists. California has often been the outlier in legal, legislative, and social issues because we have been willing to lead the profession, challenge outdated thinking, and pioneer innovative approaches. But that is not the situation before us today. Today, California is an outlier because we are holding on to the past while the rest of the profession is moving forward towards greater licensing portability and national consistency. By continuing to rely on a California-specific licensing exam, we are creating unnecessary barriers for future California MFTs. We are limiting their professional mobility, restricting employment opportunities across state lines, and placing them at a disadvantage compared to their colleagues throughout the country. As president of CAMF, a 17-year licensed MFT, and a longtime supervisor for future clinicians, I respectfully urge the board to place the AMFRB examination on its fall meeting agenda and move forward with regulatory language to transition from the California licensing exam to the national examination. Doing so will better position California's future MFTs for
15 seconds.
licensure portability, expand career opportunities, and full participation in the national profession. Thank you for your time today.
All right, this is the moderator. Next, I have Roger Smith. And Roger, you'll be given 2 minutes to speak and a 15-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Thank you very much. My name is Roger Smith, Chief Advocacy Officer with the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy. AMFT joins CAMP in support of the adoption of the AMFT National Exam as the clinical exam for MFTs in California. For many years, 49 states have used the AMFTRB National Exam as the clinical exam for the MFTs, with many thousands of candidates successfully passing the exam and practicing successfully around the country. AMFT has been actively involved in efforts to improve the licensure portability laws in other states, and over the last 2 years, the laws have been modernized in 17 states. However, we have encountered that there are several states that do not recognize applicants from California who have not yet passed the AMFTRB national exam for licensure in those states. This is a major barrier. Unfortunately, these states are very unlikely to change for a variety of reasons, those restrictions. We believe the adoption of the AMFTRB national exam in California would eliminate that for exam takers going forward. We look forward to additional discussion hopefully at the open session on this item at the meeting in the fall, and look forward to eventually reviewing any proposed regulations pertaining to the adoption of the AMFT-RB national exam. Thank you very much.
This is the moderator. We have a request from Kathy Atkins. And Kathy, you'll be given 2 minutes to speak and a 15-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Hi there, this is Kathy Atkins from CAMPT. CAMPT appreciates the BBS board and staff for the time and dedication you've devoted to evaluating the transition to the national exam, including your desire to protect California consumers. At this time, CAMPT believes the continued delay has consequences beyond the profession itself. These delays not only put California MFTs at an increasing disadvantage compared to their colleagues in the other 49 states, but they also negatively affect California consumers by making it harder to recruit and retain qualified mental health providers in the midst of a provider shortage crisis. The national exam is accepted by every other state in the nation as a valid measure of minimum competency to protect the public. California has also demonstrated confidence in the examination by recognizing it for licensure by endorsement. In other words, California has already determined that the examination is sufficient to protect the California public with every out-of-state MFT that DSA has licensed. Yet, California MFTs do not have the same level of professional mobility as MFTs in the 49 states. Increasingly, graduates consider license portability when choosing where to practice, and if California is viewed as having a non-portable licensing pathway, graduates may choose to start their careers elsewhere or avoid moving here altogether. This is not only a disadvantage for California MFTs, it will further limit the state's behavioral health workforce. Protecting the public means ensuring competent providers, but it also means ensuring Californians have timely access to enough qualified mental health professionals. If there are concerns that continue to delay the transition, CAMPT respectfully asks that these concerns be shared with stakeholders.
15
Greater
seconds.
insight will help everyone better understand the issues, and if there are problems to solve, allow stakeholders to develop solutions. CAMPT remains committed to working alongside the BBS, as well as exploring additional creative ways to ensure California adopts a licensing exam process that protects the public while prioritizing a strong, accessible, and nationally competitive mental health workforce. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. Appears there are no further requests for public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. This brings us to our final item of the day, item 34, adjournment. Thank you all for participating today. We hope to see you all at our next board meeting on November 19th and 20th, 2026. So meeting adjourned.